tied to the chair, Sin was sweating profusely from fear. He couldn't speak because his lips were sealed. The person brought a small axe closer to his bound hand. Then, the echoes of their agonized cries were heard. The tormentor started reciting his personal information in front of him, even his hobbies like playing video games, as well as how much he hates certain desserts. Sin trembled with fear. This man knows everything about him. The H then suddenly cut off the air, causing a wound by hitting the gun to his head. Tears were running down her eyes as she tried to look at her wound. The torturer sarcastically asked if he was deaf and needed a hearing aid. He seems to be enjoying the cruelty, saying he will make his ear holes bigger. Then he decided to ask her again, saying that she just needs to answer yes. He brought up the second princess, named Tanya, and her killer, suspecting that it was Sin. The latter's eyes narrowed, wondering when everything went wrong. Sin was playing in front of his computer. He was just a normal freshman in college, with an ordinary family and an ordinary life. Then he grabbed the doorknob, entering another dimension, while he was busy with his phone. He looked up and saw a girl with guards around, causing his mouth to open in confusion. A light panel suddenly appeared next to him. From there, he and the other 3 warriors were summoned. A high school student, a little boy, and an old man. Finally, a college student named Sin. Then he trembled, while the other student looked at him confused. He clenched his fist funny, thinking that he had become a protagonist in another world. With a twisted face, he was eager to learn various skills. He shouted status and statistics excitedly, which caused the 3 of them to look at him in bewilderment. He stopped embarrassed when he realized. The girl told him that they had no such thing, but they did have skill. The girl greeted him and introduced herself as Tanya. She smiled sweetly, looking forward to working with them. Then he decided to review his skills, which Sin enthusiastically accepted. She looked at the device with disappointment, leaving Sin confused. Then he couldn't believe it and revealed that he has a storage skill. The guards' heads were suddenly struck by a dark bolt of lightning, prompting her to turn her gaze away in bewilderment. She froze when a dark figure suddenly attacked her from behind. She looked down as the blood flowed in her mouth, prompting Sina to look at her in shock. The figure suddenly pulled out his fist on his stomach as it began to disintegrate. Tanya fell to the ground. She stammered as she tried to call the warrior in front of her. Sin looked down in fear with sweat all over his face. The figure pointed with his finger. A laser suddenly appeared on the tip when he killed the princess. Sin froze as he looked at his body while shaking. Then he looked up at the figure. He then confronted him as the body disappeared. He cursed in fear as the figure tried to touch him. His hand then wrapped around her entire face. The dark figure then suddenly disintegrated. Later, a device was suddenly installed on his neck. He grimaced in pain as the bald man laughed at him, causing him to look suspiciously. The floating place called Jenna was a public prison. The man asked for confirmation of his name, saying he was unlucky. He mocked Sin for becoming a prisoner and going to Gina on his first offense. Then he diverted his attention and proceeded with the next one. Sin bit his lip as he cursed in frustration. He thought that he should be living a brighter and lighter life, but suddenly he became a prisoner. The prisoners lined up as the officer greeted them. She smiled at everyone and introduced herself as Jenda's warden. Her face turned serious, telling them she wanted to throw up just by looking at them. He praised them for not having a shred of remorse on their faces. The prisoner gritted her teeth as she continued to tease them. He added that they should open their eyes and face reality. She mentioned each of them for receiving skills and ruining things. His face darkened, saying that no one had escaped. The warden looked at Sin, causing him tension as he stuttered internally. She leaned over to him, telling him that she had piqued his interest. Her face twisted in frustration, thinking why would she choose him? The warden turned her back on them, threatening all the prisoners that she might kill them. The blue guy scoffed when he heard her. The warden turned her gaze and told them to respond. The other prisoner replied in the affirmative, while the blue guy replied. The warden suddenly appeared and stepped on her position, leaving nothing but a purple liquid. Sin turned her gaze in complete shock as the warden revealed that she was chosen because she is the strongest. He advised them to live quietly in Jenna for their own sake. She looked at them with a scary face, making sure that they did not want to die like that. Meanwhile, returning to a dimly lit room, the torturer once again asked Sin, and told him to answer yes. Then she looked at him menacingly and accused him of killing the princess. His axe suddenly landed on the table, while the warden noticed that he was unwilling to admit it. With his arms crossed, he suspected that due to his mental strength, the hallucination was not working. While gritting his teeth, Sin firmly said that he was not guilty. His hand trembled, reiterating to them that he is not guilty. A blue lightning strikes suddenly, freeing him from his captivity. The torturer and the warden looked at him in shock. Sin dropped to his knees as he gasped out of breath. He looked at his hand, noticing that his fingers had grown back. Then he touched his ear, believing that he had also returned. The warden stood in front of him and revealed that it was a hallucination ability. Then she looked at him suspiciously, while mentioning his storage skill. The torturer caught her attention, saying that was not why. He added that it could be because of the loose leash, leaving Sin confused. The latter got up and asked if they were crazy for torturing him. The warden looked at him in disbelief, but suddenly turned his gaze to the side. He revealed that there is a race with 2 horns on their head, but they live in a small town. He remembered how ordinary and peaceful it was, but a person from the earth suddenly came and became a warrior. He added that 27 people died on the same day. The skill of the warrior was the god mode, consolidating all the commands. The warden shattered his limbs, while the warrior said only one thing: force the exit of the game. Sin gritted his teeth as the warden revealed that his world had turned into chaos. Deeply enraged, she mentioned what humans did to them. He then asks Sin if he doesn't feel guilty about what happened to Tanya. Sin looked down and told them it was just a false accusation. He got up and asked if there was any benefit in killing the princess. The warden dismissed him, kicking him in the face with annoyance. Then she grabbed him by the neck, telling him that admitting the offense is important for Jenna. He revealed that Jenna is just a penal institution. They don't care if they're framing him. They only teach and correct. He raised his fist as he welcomed Sin to his place. He was thrown inside and was left lying on the ground. Then he grimaced in pain, knowing that there is no easy life in this world. Feeling only loneliness and suffering, she looked up with tears in her eyes as she noticed a light, Tanya standing in front of him. Then she looked at him with worried eyes, which prompted him to call her confused. Tanya smiled, asking him if he wanted to be released from that place. Tanya offered her hand, asking Sin if he wanted to be free. Sin stared, thinking it was an illusion. With the princess's outstretched hand, she thought it was too real. Then he raised his hand to take it from her, followed by a curious question of whether Tanya was still alive. He gritted his teeth, curious as to how he had managed to survive. Then he closed his eyes, saying that he is glad that she is there. He grabbed her by the shoulder, believing that he is now free from false accusations. The princess looked at her as he pleaded. Then he closed his eyes and sighed. She took his hand, telling him that there is no way for his innocence to be proven. Sin's eyes widened in shock, asking him why. A pink light rolled up around Tanya's body, revealing that there are several reasons. Sin covered his face while he was confused. The princess's form began to change, telling her that she is already dead. He explained that his form is called etheric, since his soul is the core, and his body is the mana. Then he revealed that only people from Earth can see it. With a serious face, he proceeded to the important thing. She asked him if he remembered what the culprit's face was. Sin covered his mouth as he couldn't remember his face, and noticed that he can't remember the other warrior's face either. He was thinking that a part of his memory had been cut off. Tanya revealed how easy it was for them to manipulate what really happened. She told him that there is no point in revealing that she is alive, which prompted Sina to look down. The latter's face darkened, asking Tanya what she was supposed to do. Then he complained with frustration and confusion. He argued that he is the one who will be executed. He shouted that he was summoned into this world, and was only framed and tortured. He pointed at her, telling her to stop babbling, and asking for a way out. Tanya took his hand, informing him that there is a way out. Sin looked at her in shock, asking what it was. Tanya directly told him to escape, as no person with Munchkin ability has ever escaped from Denda. Later, Sin was tied up again. The torturer leaned closer, asking him what he had said. He then removed the seal from Sin's mouth. With tears in his eyes, Sin admitted that he killed Tanya and her court magician. Being tired of being tortured for 2 days, he had to repent of the offense he did not commit. As he finally admitted, the guards can now return to their original work. The guard then told him that his comrade will explain what awaits him. It was Amber from the patrol team. Sin looked at her confused, while Amber happily greeted him and teased him for looking silly and stupid. Then he opened the cuffs to her, telling her that he felt uncomfortable. Sin held his arm, confused about what was happening. Amber took his hand and greeted him cheerfully. Again, the guard stopped Amber from talking much and urged her to show him something. Sin looked down confused, only to find that his hands were cuffed again. Amber suddenly grabbed him and dragged him away. Sin asked Amber what was going on, but Amber told him they were done with him. Amber reiterated that the most important thing in Gina is to admit her offense. Sin realized that if he admitted it soon, the torture would stop immediately. Amber's eyes sparkled as she told him that once she admitted it, she couldn't refuse. Sin's eyes widened in surprise, asking what she meant by that. Amber got serious and told him that it would be quite troublesome. Then he dismissed it and told her to talk about something else. She put her arms over his shoulder and introduced herself again. The patrol team he was on consisted of elite members with the highest combat skills. He then revealed that she was in charge of the section where he was incarcerated. He added that if he made a scene, she would kill him. Then they arrived in front of the guarded door. Without looking straight ahead in shock and fear, seeing prisoners drowning in yellow liquid. A lot of prisoners were imprisoned inside a cellular machine. Amber revealed that she was the means of execution in Jenda. Sin asked him fearfully if the prisoners were being used as batteries. Amber called it extraction, as they were gathering her mana and abilities. He revealed that the prisoners are his important resources. Amber told her that she heard that Sin's ability is special, so she let him know. Back in the room, Tanya asked him about his plans. In desperation, Sin asked if there was another way. Tanya told him that because he is from Earth, he will not be able to get a lawyer. Sin replied, telling him that escape is impossible. Tanya stares at him, telling him a story to keep him motivated. He crossed his arms, revealing that time on Earth has not stopped. Sin looked at her confused, while Tanya reiterated that a month in her world is also a month on Earth. Sin's eyebrows furrowed at that, as Tanya teased him. He got up and grabbed Tanya's neck. She trembled with rage, saying that it was she who summoned him. Not caring about the assault, Tanya asked if she would just do nothing. She told him that it is and rot in prison or return to Earth. Sin gritted his teeth as Tanya offered to help him escape. He still shaking, letting go of Tanya's neck. He angrily told her that he does not trust her, but that he will escape, which she affirmed and praised him. The guy with the glasses told him that he can only give 75 points. Amber wiped her lips, asking if he really thought about killing her. The guy admitted it without hesitation, while they were face to face. Amber collapsed on the floor exhausted, and thanked him. The guy admitted that he likes his ability to be able to foresee everything. He also revealed that his weakness is that he can only focus on a single goal. A sudden realization hit her upon hearing it as a bear appears. The guy told him to know the pros and cons of his skills. Amber happily asked if her master likes a bear, which he denied. Amber suddenly became curious about the warden's whereabouts, while her teacher replied that the superiors called her, and he needed to join too. Amber clarified that the teacher and the warden will be absent, which caused her teacher to think that he was suspicious. He revealed that they were called because Sin surrendered. Tanya looks seriously in front, while someone is standing before her and wearing a hoodie. Sin stood in line with other prisoners. Then he thought about the execution of his escape plan. He surveyed the area, noticing that there were about 20 guards. Each of them was carrying a gun, making him wonder about the gun. Tanya told him that it works through magic, and that he can shoot at a longer distance. He called her when he noticed that she was loitering. I was about to ask a question when she dropped it. Tanya reminded him to be careful and just listen. He revealed that there will be an ambush later and reminded her to get ready by then. No, I was hesitating, but it's the only way for me to be free. So he opted to keep going as he walked between the guards. The guard checked him and asked him to bow down. A device was installed on his neck to measure the strength of his ability. His hands were sealed then. The guard told the device to kill Sin immediately if he got any closer. Sin walked forward being nervous. Then he covered his face with a blinding light. Inside there was a giant apparatus with guards around. The guard called him, telling him to come downtown. Tanya revealed that they will be checking Sim's skills for a special task or management. She ordered him to shout the name of his skill, and thought of an imaginary finger. She pushed him to the device and told him that she would wait outside. Sin began to ascend. Then he thought about his storage skill since he didn't know how to use it. The speaker told him to use his storage skill on the mannequin. Sin was surprised to see a mannequin, realizing that he does not know its ability. He raised his hand to prove it. Then he started saying the name of his skill. But nothing happened inside, prompting the speaker to question him. Her eyes narrowed, saying internally that it was just her first time. Then he advanced, resting his hand against the mannequin. Small fragments of light began to emerge as I was thinking about how to activate it. He closed his fist when a blue lightning started to hit him. Her eyes opened with surprise. Looking at the list of endless items at the corner of his eyes, the person behind the speaker mocks his skill, saying that it is a bad one, without scanning his hand, making sure that it was a normal storage skill like the of the games. But there's something that's bothering him. He remembered the past when he was being reviewed. Tanya was forcing a smile as if she was upset. Meanwhile, Tanya's soul was watching from behind. Sin looked at her, feeling embarrassed but not disappointed. He thought that maybe it was an unidentified skill, or that there was something he did not know. He then clenched his fist in frustration, as the speaker ordered him to put the mannequin back in its original state. He started panicking because he didn't know how to return it. The guard started asking what was wrong, while the other one guessed that it was his first time, which prompted him to look at her. His face dimmed, asking the other in complete surprise. The girl touched his elbow and started stabbing his legs while throwing her gun up. He then landed on the ground while wincing in pain. With his eyes half closed, he stopped the girl. The latter cheerfully told her to do so as she raised her knife. The other guards noticed the scene and decided to kill her quickly. The other asked his comrade to shoot, while the girl simply licked her face. Sin asked Tanya in shock, thinking that the plan would be executed later. Of course, Tanya replied as if she didn't know, which prompted him to stare with wide eyes. He admitted that he did not know the girl while the latter was enjoying the chase. The girl jumped in the air, joyfully enjoying the explosion behind her. Then she smiled as her eyes sparkled. One guard was busy eating chocolate when another appeared asking if he was eating again. Then he mentioned that he had cut himself after playing. The guard then asked if he had caught a cold too. A black liquid suddenly appeared in the guy's mouth, prompting him to fall to his knees, while the other remained confused. Then he started calling someone else, but a black liquid also started pouring into his mouth. His eyes widened as he sweated incessantly. He looked at his hands as he started to vomit. Then he also fell to his knees, slowly losing consciousness. With his eyes open, the guard collapsed. Despite being unconscious, the other seemed to utter a word. A white man suddenly came out of his mouth. The latter asked Daffel if he was okay. The guards suddenly stood up as if someone was controlling them. The white man positioned himself as if preparing for something. Meanwhile, inside the room the guards were busy accommodating the prisoners. The wife was removed from the prisoner's hand. The prisoner was told to enter and move quickly to the next one. The cat girl suddenly came in. Then he looked around the room. His gaze rested on the guard's foot with a subtle smile. From there, the white man suddenly emerged from the guard's shadow, causing him to smile slightly. Then he moved his hand as if he was saying something to the man. He got the guard's attention, telling them he really needed to pee. She begged one of them to let her go to the bathroom. The guard loses patience as she rejects what the guard wanted to say. The guard shouted, asking what she meant, while getting suspicious of her. His eyes rolled as if he lost his sense of reality. Then he cursed under his breath as he closed his eyes. With furrowed brows, he ordered his comrades to attack after being exposed. The guard looked at her confused. A black shadow suddenly appeared on his foot, swirling around him and killing the guards around him. His wife was also cut off by the black tentacles. Then she started running, while the other guard was chasing her. He realized how fast he was even after killing his comrades, while a smile suddenly formed on his lips. The guard's fist flashed blue as he ran after her. She gritted her teeth, thinking about how to get the necklace. Then he stopped, looking straight ahead. He looked up, finding the blue fragments above. The fragments caused a massive explosion on the ground, as the guards pointed their weapons at her. Then he emerged from the smoke, finding everything exciting. The guard looked closely. He and the others started firing their guns again. Then he stopped and looked alarmed. A black sphere suddenly appeared. The girl smiled as she held the necklace. The guard's eyes widened, wondering what the sphere around him was. He realized that the space was warping, leaving him in a state of shock. Then he ordered everyone to stand down. He turned his gaze, informing them that he was going to fire a bullet. A violet ray began to swirl in his hand. Then he ordered it with one word. A bunch of bullets suddenly shot through the guards. He started walking while holding his knife. Then he smiled self-sufficiently as he stood before the white man, eager to look for Sim. The latter's face began to sweat as she smiled happily. She sat in the middle of the dead bodies, saying how tired she was. She called the white man and complained that he did not help her. Sin looked at them confused, knowing that it was not part of Tanya's plan. But he is sure of one thing. There are two sides that are trying to get him out. Tanya thought that the situation was not good. The girl cheerfully called to Sin, telling him to come over to get him out of there. Then she assured him that she was not going to bite him. Tanya urged Sin to follow the two first. The two went downstairs, which caused the girl to scream with happiness. The white man called her Pico and told her they had to hurry. Pico looked at him and made fun of him. She then introduced herself to Sin, asking him to follow her. Sin looked at her hesitantly. Then he looked at the corpse below in disgust. Petko remained confident and laughed at him while he gnashed his teeth. Without hesitating, thinking that he should return because of the scene, Pico suddenly offered him his hand. She told him to take her hand and follow her example. She smiled at him, asking if he would be less afraid. Sin stared at her, telling her no. While Pico was shining brightly, he was afraid of her. The white man folded his arms, saying that every second is precious to waste. Then he smiled slightly, noticing Amber on his back, and telling her not to come closer. Amber asked curiously how he knew about her when he never touched her shadow. Then he told her that all the shadows shared the same vision. While Amber admitted that it was the first time in her life, the man suddenly clenched his fist and began to throw a punch. While Amber was smiling as if she saw something of him, she lunged forward and noticed that the punch was fake, and the shadow behind her was the real one. He also knew that the body is just a vessel, and therefore it is false. With sparkling eyes, she revealed that her real body is the shadow on the floor. The man told Pico that Amber has a demon eye ability. Amber swung her weapon forward without hesitation, cutting the man in half, which caused Sin and Pico to look next to her. Amber then smiled, saying that there is only one intruder left to handle. On the way to Pico and Sin was Amber, stopped to intercept them. They looked at her warily, preparing for a possible confrontation. Sin remembered her. He was the person back then. Amber spoke. I was confused, since the information said that it was the work of a traitor. Then he turned to them, asking which one of them is the intruder. His instincts were sharp. He speculated about the involvement of a third party. She doesn't understand why there are so many groups trying to get Sin out of that place. Tanya wondered if Amber could see her through the distortion of magic. She expressed that the possessors of mana abilities are actually quite annoying. Wielding her sword, Amber suggested putting Sin aside for now. Everything happened so fast that without even being able to react, the battle has already begun with Amber and Pico's exchange of blows. Pico was struggling to deal with Amber's unorthodox attacks. The latter quickly swung her sword, which Pico evaded with ease. He then charged his sword with crimson energy, planning to take things seriously. He chased her all over the place, slashing back and forth with his sword. Pico managed to put distance, but Amber immediately charged forward. Seeing that her attacks were useless, Amber knew that it was a spatial manipulation skill. Meanwhile, Pico can see the mana he can use through the mana abilities. Suddenly, Sin activated his storage ability. He was surprised and thought it was good that he kept the flying debris. Other than that, he couldn't contain his surprise at seeing his speed. Tanya spoke up, saying it's a power versus technical conversation. He added that even the hero, Sin, has to do at least that. The battle resumed. Amber's sword was charged with more energy. Pekka also did not plan to stand still and unleashed her ability. I was sweating. I knew there shouldn't be much mana left. The fight continued, and the whole place was devoured by their energies. Amber charged with her crimson sword as Pico prepared to defend. His spatial ability was able to shatter the space around him, and Amber can see it very clearly. Pico then threw the shattered fragments before, like projectiles at the enemy. The latter was able to effortlessly deflect each of them with her sword. There was one more fragment curving, aiming to sneak in from behind, but Amber's extraordinary senses caught on without breaking a sweat. Looking at Pico, he can finally see everything visible now. With this, she is sure that she is using a spatial distortion skill. He decided to release his mana wildly, causing Pico to flee. He gritted his teeth as he wielded his sword, knowing how difficult the situation is. Meanwhile, Amber's energy continues to grow stronger. Pico gritted his teeth, his eyes wide in shock at what he's seeing. A powerful crimson explosion occurred, filling the room with smoke and sparks. Even Sin, who was watching from a distance, was almost trapped. Looking at the attack, he wondered what kind of absurdly strong ability that is. With this, he finally understood what Tanya meant earlier. While Amber fires great techniques, Pico uses a minimal mana release. He wondered if it is an innate mana difference. Tanya said that it is also a difference of skill type. Spatial abilities usually consume a lot of mana, and Amber should consume almost nothing. Without worried, they are not in a position to spend mana calmly. With that in mind, he decided to join the fight and asked about mana abilities. But Tanya thinks it's a silly decision since she can't release mana yet. Sin already knows that Tanya has the same abilities as him and is not an ordinary inventory. Tanya changed her mind, warning him that the fight can only end in death. Looking at the dead bodies around, he asked if he was ready to get his hands dirty. But without, I already knew that I had no other choice. There is nothing else he can do since he is stuck in this situation. He firmly stated that he is preparing. He will stop for it. Tanya looked at him in silence for a moment. Then he began to explain the mechanics of using mana. In this world, even ordinary items contain a small amount of mana, so users like Amber can see everything clearly, allowing her to perceive enemy attacks. Upon a closer look, he discovered the nature of the spatial distortion ability. As Pico quickly propelled himself up from the ground to attack, Amber unleashed a counterattack. That resulted in a violent storm of sword slashes. They crossed their attacks, but it is clear that Pico is at a disadvantage. Then, a crimson slash tore the air. Pico couldn't even react in time. His shoulders were already cut off. This injury made her stop for a moment. Amber confronted her, asking if she is finally reaching the limits of her abilities. She couldn't answer, just stare at her as she gasped and sweated. Hearing no words from her, Amber decided that it's time to kill her. She smiled bitterly as she watched his violent burst of energy, but she knew the weakness of mana abilities, its information overload. This is the reason why mana skill users impose self-restrictions on their abilities. While Pico manipulated the shattered debris to attack Amber, the latter used her mana abilities to predict the trajectories of the attacks. All these attacks were coming at Amber all at once. She just gritted her teeth, declaring that it is useless against her. With his mana ability, he can effortlessly read his way and evade accordingly. She effortlessly closed the distance and raised her sword, aiming to finish things already. But Pico revealed her fatal flaw of minimizing information only for combat. With this, he could not see the mana of ordinary objects. Because he focused on the projectiles, he did not see the ceiling collapsing from above. It was a smart win for Peko, who revealed he wasn't shooting at her. She pointed up and said she was aiming at a weak spot in the ceiling. It's the part where she purposely revealed her position while fighting against her. With this, the fight concluded with Amber's defeat. While all that was going on, Tanya was explaining everything to Sin. He wasn't sure if it would be useful, but he said he would try. With Amber's defeat, the restrictions on her magic eye abilities were lifted. Looking at the fatigued Beak who was panting and sweating, Sin wondered what is the weakness of the mana that can read everything. Meanwhile, it turned out that Amber was still alive under the rubble. She conceded defeat while coughing, but she's not willing for it to end like this. His eyes burned crimson, declaring that there is still the ultimate movement. Pico was completely stunned and alarmed when she heard his last words. The latter then smiled as she activated her skill overload. Crimson sparks crackled as he lay down under the rubble. Then, with explosive speed, he propelled himself forward. His demonic eyes were fixed on the target, which is Pico. Skill overload means imposing a burden to increase the output of the skill. The overload of the demon eyes to amplify the mana several times to expand their field of vision. He can hold it for about 15 seconds, and he can even see a little into the future. This allowed him to predict his evasion trajectory and attack accordingly. Pico then fell into a faint as she raised her arms to block, only to be hit by a vicious tail lash from Amber. The latter did not waste any time and slammed it hard to the ground. She came down with a thick crimson energy, planning to finally finish things. But 10 seconds before his skill use was his massive handicap. After the overload is released, you will lose your vision temporarily. Seeing this, Pico wondered if he should overload his skills as well. She wasted no time and activated her skill planning to conclude this encounter. With determined eyes, he swung his arms to attack Amber with his mana-enhanced ability. Amber was still able to block his attack, but then she looked down as she noticed something strange. The space in front of her begins to warp due to the peak spatial distortion. An explosion of purple mana occurred, powerful enough to affect even Pico. She gritted her teeth as she endured the recoil of the rapid distortion of space. But he quickly regained his posture and began to run away. She knows she needs to reassess as she assesses the situation. But suddenly, Amber managed to quickly catch up with her. She was surprised. Amber revealed that she saw the shape and direction of the space. Something like snagging on the angle she's flying at is an easy task for her. Just when he was starting to think he had already won this fight, Sin was preparing to step in as an unpredictable variable. No one noticed him, but he already got between them. A crackle of blue spark was unleashed as he activated his ability. Even Amber's demon-like eyes couldn't foresee this attack. She was visibly dazed, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Then he looked to the side as he noticed Sin there. He spoke, explaining that overlapping items in the same location disappear when he retrieves items. He still feels guilty for killing someone with his bare hands. Meanwhile, Tanya deduced that that was the reason why he was moving stealthily since before. Who knew Amber's decision to leave Sin out would be a fatal mistake? Tanya then commented that the hero's adaptation is faster than expected. Meanwhile, Amber finally realized that this is the weakness of mana abilities. As he fell, he unfortunately blamed his lack of experience. His lifeless body fell to the ground in front of Pico and Sin. Guilt and pain were etched on his face as he looked at her. He admitted that he had killed her and that it was his own choice. By the time he chose to escape, his path ahead was already stained with blood, but he doesn't care. He will do anything to get back to Earth. While admiring the corpses, Pico was exploring his exit route. She reported that it seems that there are no more guards left. But hearing no reply from Sin, she turned her head towards him. She asked what was going on, to which he said he was just picking up guns. Then, sadly, he turned his gaze downward, hesitantly stepping on the crimson-stained floor as he walked forward. Pico revealed that he released other prisoners earlier as a distraction. While the chaos persists, they will take this opportunity to leave by the escape route. This is when he finally got curious. Who are they and why are they helping him? She said she can't say much for now, but revealed that they see it as the key. Sin repeated his words, wondering what they meant. He added that there is something important locked up, and only he can unlock it. He looked at Tanya, who looked guilty as she looked at him. This sight only increased his confusion, generating more questions in his mind. Pico asked why he was absent, to which he replied that it was nothing. Then he told her that the corridors are already chaotic, and that they must find another route. He pointed to the ceiling, saying they're going up. Sin looked up, wondering what he meant by going up. He activated her skill, and told her to hold on tight. Pico pushed himself up, getting closer to the ceiling. Sin understood what he plans to do, and prepared to use his skill. He raised his hand, activating the storage ability on the ceiling light. With the stored light, they managed to get through the ceiling. But she told him not to relax as they might still encounter armed guards. She started running, telling him to follow her as she broke through the barriers. Tanya stared at him while he kept running. Her eyes were fixed forward, but she could tell when Tanya decided to leave quietly. He looked back, wondering what was wrong with him, and suddenly he was gone. Suddenly, Pico grabbed the back of his neck. She asked what he was doing, and told him not to stop running. She plans to separate the area where the riot is happening, so that they cannot miss each other. But if she didn't understand what he meant by separating the place, she explained that it is a skill that confines space-time. A common skill for Genda's patrol teams. Meanwhile, the massacre is happening in another part of the prison. One of the prisoners has not lost the will to fight, and continues to respond. She fired several magic projectiles at high speed, but they were all caught by the prison warden's spatial ability. The guards reported the completion of the evacuation task, and will now head to the port of Graymel. He then raised his hands, and prepared to launch an ability at the prisoners who were watching him warily, as they activated their own abilities. Then he decided to activate the overload ability, opening an empty dimension out of nowhere in front of a monster. The empty dimension abruptly expanded, engulfing the monster. Only his fingers remained, as he was completely devoured by the conjured space. He turned to the guards, saying that they had better protect him diligently. He activated his headset, informing the completion of the spatial separation operation. On the other end of the line was Isaac, reporting that things were over on his end. Then he requested the disposition for the recovery of the bodies. He wondered if it was just a coincidence that the top brass were absent. He said it was not a coincidence, but certainly a well-planned attack. He then asked about the locations of the other escaped prisoners. Cecilia replied, giving the locations of the fugitives. It is strange to him that the location of each of them is completely different. They found that it must be a skill that interrupts information. Meanwhile, several guards were seen standing on the path of Pico and Sin, but they needed to avoid the combat, since they had already used a lot of mana. She told him to make a hole in the wall and distort the ability to escape. The guards then spoke up, telling them that Daffel had cleared all the corridors. Sin was surprised to hear his strange way of talking. Even Pico was surprised. They found out that it was Daffel's work. He explained to the confused Sin that Daffel is a colleague capable of controlling others. The controlled guards continued to report the situation. With this, the two can effortlessly pass through the hallway. One of the guards approached Pico and handed him the object he asked for. Sin looked at it, wondering what that object was. She showed him the magic device, an object used to evade Genda's automatic fire. Then he told him to keep it for now, to which he obediently complied. They entered a certain room, to which she said they must exit above there. From the upper floors, a hole appeared in the ground. When he got out of it he was without, and what greeted him was the sight of the supply hovercraft. He explained that each building operates them on the upper floor for the supply of materials. No one but the two of them could have gotten that far on the run. With this, Sin's face was filled with anxious hope. Seeing the machine, he wondered if he could finally escape from this place. He also wondered about Tanya. Why did she suddenly leave? But then a voice was heard approaching. It was Isaac, discovering that they had been controlling the guards. He pulled out one of his projectiles, threatening to kill them. Pico worriedly called Sin when he saw the guard's entrance. Isaac wasted no time, and immediately threw the projectile directly into his eye. When the projectile was about to pierce his eye, He managed to activate his ability at the last second, and stopped the attack. Isaac was stunned by the sight he had just witnessed. He discovered that he was the one with the storage ability, capable of storing even flying projectiles. But if he couldn't hear her words since his attention was elsewhere, he saw that the beads of sweat on her face were frozen from the guard's attack. Isaac pulled out another of his projectiles, confirming that he indeed has the ability to freeze anyone and kill them. Earlier, Isaac was talking to Caleb about the peculiar report about Sim. It was said that he killed Tanya and everyone, but why couldn't anyone remember him? However, Caleb dismissed his concerns, as there's solid evidence pointing this out. He revealed that it is the mana trail. Mana is like an unfalsifiable chamber. His wavelength differs from person to person, and the mana trail at the crime scene matched Sin's. With this, it can be concluded that he is just a lunatic killer talking nonsense. Isaac had no choice but to agree, recognizing that he was just an ordinary murderer. Back to the present, he launched two frost projectiles at Sin. The latter prepared to receive the attack, ready to activate the ability. He was able to catch the first shell, but there was one more following. The frost shell did not hit him, but fell to the ground. It exploded on contact, causing her to flinch as she closed her eyes. She fell to the ground, where Pekka ran over and asked if she was okay, but she was stunned when he touched her shoulder. The body of Cinema was frozen as ice. The frost slowly began to eat away at his body, eventually causing his eyes to bleed. Isaac confidently boasted that he could kill him without laying a finger on him. He launched another scorch projectile in his direction, but Pico activated his ability in response to deflect the attack. Isaac was surprised to see that she was a spatial ability user. She continued to envelop them both in a distorted space. With this, the two of them were able to deform out of that place. Isaac wondered if it was a conspiracy of the Empire or the Kingdom. He then threw several more frost shells around the place. He stood in the center of the floating frost shells, then looked at the supply hovercraft parked next to him. Then he threw the projectile at him. With this, he was able to ensure that his means of escape were cut off. Meanwhile, Sin was wondering if it was the Kingdom or the Empire that was trying to take him out. It seemed absurd to him, but then Pico called him by name. She told him that he should keep his mana to use the last resort. Sin was surprised to hear this. From now on, they have to travel without using mana since they need it later. Fighting twice with the mobile team was something that was not part of his plan. Sin realized that he will be the one who has to fight instead of Pico. Looking at Isaac, he wondered if he was capable of winning. But then, the controlled guards suddenly jumped in to restrict Isaac's movements. The latter was sure that he had subdued them before, and wondered how it was possible. He activated his frost shells, freezing the controlled guards together. But one of them spoke up, saying that the magic transport would begin. Despite struggling, Isaac still managed to prepare a frost projectile. As Pico and Sin boarded the supply hovercraft, Isaac struggled and unleashed his frost shell. The attack was aimed directly at Pico, who was taken by surprise. But thanks to Sin's quick reaction, he was able to activate the storage ability. He caught the attack with his bare hands, disabling the attack. The controlled guards then continued to push and restrain Isaac. He then asked Sin if he really thinks he will be free after that. He added that it doesn't matter which faction he chooses, they all just intend to use him. Whichever way you go forward, your future will be hell. Sin finds it unfair and grinds his teeth in frustration. He said he doesn't care about any of that, and he just wanted to get out of that place. Just the thought of people being tortured makes him boil with silent rage. Pico noticed his emotions and called him, but he couldn't keep talking when he gritted his teeth in anger. He firmly declared that this world would be better off without them. Isaac once again brought up the accusation that Sin killed the princess, to which he firmly refused, and asked why they would not listen to him. He was about to continue until Pico interrupted him, saying that they are just buying time. Time. She told him to calm down and start the non-magical transport first. Hearing this, Sin became silent and obediently entered the hovercraft. Pico empathized with him, acknowledging his feelings of being treated unfairly. But in the place they are heading to, they will end up dead, and they rely on such things. The earth can be a very comfortable place, But this place is different. One must always remain calm and serene in order to survive. In this place, it's always better to kill than to be killed. Using skills and magic in combat is essential, which without being killed is key after so much effort in escaping. That would be very sad for Pico. The controlled guard then told them to leave, declaring that this operation was a success. But Isaac wasn't going to let things go his way. In his attempt, somewhat desperate to free himself, he activated his ability. The bodies of the controlled guards broke easily, as if they were made of fragile ice. This sight made Sin worry as he looked at them. Activating his abilities, Isaac fixed his eyes on the hovercraft they were boarding on. Without hesitation, he ran as fast as he could to chase them. This situation left Pico no other choice. I didn't want to use the overload skill in this place, but there's nothing else I can do. When Isaac was about to touch the hovercraft and freeze it, Pico activated the overload ability and enveloped his body in a storm of space magic. They evaded being frozen by Isaac's skill just in time. Isaac wondered if it was a distortion skill, but he felt it was too different. He even struggled to stay on his feet, as the black hole sucked everything out. Upon seeing him, he asked them if this was their final act of desperation. He pulled out his wire hook gun and fired it into the black hole. Meanwhile, the use of the overload ability has started to affect Pico. Sin called her worried about her name, but she dismissed it and told him to listen. The hovercraft was set to autopilot and will take it out automatically. Avenge. He then ordered her to take out the magic tool she gave him earlier. But before he could even finish his words, he had already collapsed. Now that he is completely alone, Sin began to panic. It was then that he noticed a shadow cast over him, which prompted him to look up. There was Isaac, standing on the windshield of the hovercraft. He commented that it seemed that the side effects of the overload were starting to manifest. Sin bit his lower lip in frustration and helplessness, but he is not willing to go down without a fight, and has activated his ability. As the plane floated in the middle of the warp space around it, Isaac explained that higher production means higher mana consumption. Depending on the skill, there may be other costs besides mana. Those who overload skills should prepare for a high-risk, high-reward gamble. He added that it can backfire if not used carefully. Just like what happened to Pico at this moment, he suddenly crashed his frost dart into the windshield of the hovercraft. Sin looked at him nervously, not knowing what to do. Cracks began to appear on the windshield after continuing blows. In response, he turned around and prepared to flee. Then he saw Pico lying unconscious on the ground. He wasted no time and activated his storage skill on her, but was surprised to see that the skill was not working on her. Looking at it, he discovered that living beings cannot be stored. For his ability, he gritted his teeth in frustration as he watched the windshield gradually collapse. With this, he has no choice but to lift it himself. As he was trying to escape, something caught his attention. It was the parachute inside the supply hovercraft. He then reached out his hand towards the magic device and pressed it, conjuring a protective barrier around the aircraft. After continuous banging, the windshield was finally pierced by Isaac. He stood on top of the broken glass as he looked down. He pulled out his cable gun and fired it at the aircraft. But he couldn't penetrate the deformation skill thrown by Pico, and just bounced right away. He sighed, contemplating whether he should turn around and come back, but was surprised to learn that Jenna's automation is not working. Still, all he has left to face is Sin, and he thinks that's enough to handle on his own. He went down to the lower floors of the hovercraft and looked for him. He scanned the place, seeing the barrel of a gun protruding from the corner of the room. He wasted no time and immediately took out a frost projectile. Then he threw it directly into the place. The attack was aimed at the weapon. He thought Sin was hiding there. Suddenly, Sin's storage ability activated near his feet, surprising Isaac. A large machine was summoned out of nowhere, blocking Isaac's path. It turns out that Sin was actually hiding under the stairs. He took out another frost shell, and then threw it straight towards the stairs. But then, Sin suddenly appeared in front of him. Then he pulled out a gun that he had kept earlier. He did not hesitate, and immediately pointed it at Isaac. The trigger was pulled, firing powerful bullets at the enemy. But with his quick thinking, Isaac threw another frost projectile. He managed to intercept the remaining bullets in the middle of firing as he fell to the ground. With her face kissing the ground, she moaned in pain. Meanwhile, frost projectile he dropped earlier has disabled Sin's attack. Seeing this, Sin was speechless and shocked. When Isaac got up, he noticed that Sin had only hit him twice, even after shooting at close range. His hands were bleeding, but he was relieved that Sin was not an accurate shooter. Then he spoke up, saying that I had underestimated him and his abilities. Looking back at what he has shown so far, he fights better than expected. He cinched a side step, partially hiding behind a wall for cover. Once again he pointed his gun at Isaac, who in turn moved his hand to the sides. He pushed several boxes of packages, spilling them. As soon as they touched the ground, they released a volley of frost shells all over the place. He then fired his corded pistol, coiling around the ceiling, that helped him maneuver as he battled Sin. The latter fixed his eyes on him, continuing to shoot incessantly. With the cable successfully grabbing a firm structure above, he was able to swing all over the place for better mobility. With this, Sin finds it difficult to hit him now that he is moving much faster. Inside the room, Isaac ordered him to drop his gun and enter. Holding the unconscious Peiko hostage, he proposed that they negotiate. Sin looked at her worried, hoping Isaac wouldn't hurt her. Isaac told him that he had a hunch where the traitor was hiding. He told him to throw his gun away from the engine room and take a step inside. Threatened with death by Isaac, Sin tried to get out by lying, but it wouldn't work with Isaac. He knows that only Peiko knows the detailed plan. Sin was confused to hear him and asked what he meant. Isaac then proposed a negotiation. He will delay his execution date as much as possible. The information Peiko has is valuable, and Sin could avoid death with it. He told her that her plan had already failed. He then asked the hesitant Sin if he wanted to know the story behind it all. The latter remained silent, weighing the options and situations that presented themselves to him. After careful contemplation, he dropped his weapon. He then raised both hands, indicating that he was surrendering. Isaac expressed that he also wanted to finish this as calmly as possible. He ordered her to raise her hands and slowly kneel down. He obeyed Isaac's command to surrender peacefully. After a while, Sin said that he has no intention of doing anything in this world. He lowered his head, expressing his desire to return to his world. Then he suddenly activated his storage ability, startling Isaac. The latter was surprised and asked him what he was doing. Sin flashed a smile as he looked at Isaac, declaring that the negotiation was over. With the commotion inside, the hovercraft began to spiral downward. They were both standing in front of the hole that the storage skill had created. Isaac wondered if he had already given up, but he felt that something was not right. He discovered that life is at stake without. However, Isaac knows that there is also a way for him to survive. He activated his ability, covering his body with shank sparks. Sin realized what he was trying to do and became alarmed. Isaac then pushed himself forward, kicking against the wall. He hovered in the air, maneuvering in front of Sin. The latter discovered that Isaac had used the mana emission against him, but it was already too late, since the former had already found him. He delivered a vicious knee strike to Sin, which he struggled to block. The powerful impact of the attack sent him backwards, slamming into the wall. Now that the situation turned like this, Isaac decided to move using mana emission. He knew that Sin's goal would be to escape with Peiko, using the parachute. After the calculation, Isaac discovered that there is still 1 minute left before they crash. He was still doing his calculations when he suddenly noticed the wall. Coming out of it was Sin, who had just used his storage skill once more. He asked her if she was going to go all the way. Sin fixed his eyes on Isaac as he entered the room from the ceiling. He looked at him with dagger-like glances, determined to execute his plan. Of course, Isaac will not let him do as he pleases and activates his own ability. Isaac unleashes an attack against Sin, which he counters by activating his storage ability. Her eyes then widened in shock as she noticed something. Below him was Isaac, preparing a sneak attack on him. Then he pulled out his escape shells, Karka, to attack Sin. The latter became alarmed upon realizing this and activated his storage ability. He quickly retrieved an item he had saved earlier to block the attack. But this was all part of Isaac's plan. I've been waiting for it. He discovered that his strategy is always to block an attack with an object. Isaac unleashed a destructive punch at the object, shattering it into pieces. Sin was surprised by the explosive strength Isaac had just displayed. The latter planted his foot firmly on the ground, then propelled himself forward to deliver a devastating punch to Sin's face. He was sent staggering backwards, slamming into the objects behind him. Isaac admitted that he can't hit as hard with his injured arm. Meanwhile, the stunned Soji regrets not being able to use the mana quest yet. On the other hand, Isaac is already planning to finish him off. He added that Sin let his guard down, and that's why he lost this fight. He unleashed a frost projectile at the motionless opponent. At the height of his desperation, Sin can only think of one way to win. Earlier, he knew that he was able to block the attack using his storage skill, and the same had happened before. In the past. Having the answer he needed, he wasted no time and activated his skill. He knows that being able to store an ability means that you can also retrieve it. The frost projectile he kept earlier exploded with power, directly hitting Isaac in the body while he was unprepared. Meanwhile, Isaac's attack grazed Sin's head, barely avoiding him. Back to Isaac, he was so confused to see his own skill used against him, but Sin then fell to the ground. The right side of his face was freezing. I was struggling to breathe, but I was delighted that I had made it. By any means and with his own strength, he actually managed to win. He then looked to the side after noticing that Pico was already awake. She was staring at her, speechless, while he was calling her by name. She said that he had already prepared the parachute, and that they were ready to escape. But this feeling of resolution made him let his guard down. At that moment, he realized that he was deliberately ignoring some things. First, he wondered why Tanya was only in an ethereal state. Secondly, why he suddenly disappeared in the middle of his escape plan. I knew I could make excuses all I wanted, but the result wouldn't change. Before he realized what was happening, it was too late for Pico. Tanya commented that the hero really defeated the mobile team, just as his comrades said. Then he asked if it's not time to start moving now. There was Seal, sitting in silence, while Tanya asked him. Back in the present, no one could predict when Seal would attack Pico. He could only stare in shock as he watched his comrade fall. Tanya smiled in an evil way, saying that it will not work. She sarcastically reminded him of a childhood advice, not to follow strangers. He wasted no time, and immediately took off his shirt, planning to stop Petco's bleeding with it. He immediately covered the wound with it, although it was not enough to contain the injury. Meanwhile, Tanya appeared to sarcastically instruct Sin on what to do for first aid. She looked at her with cold eyes, saying that she is getting used to the storage skill. Suddenly, Shin appeared behind him and spoke. She looked over her shoulder at him, saying that his skills are terribly deficient. Sin was immediately alarmed and activated his storage ability. But this is just a pathetic attempt at resistance, in Sion's eyes. Without hesitation, he immediately grabbed her head and slammed her against the wall. Then he asked her if the storage skill is really the only talent she has. Meanwhile, the stunned Sin was wondering what happened and why he couldn't see any movement. Tanya called Seal, warning him that he is becoming dangerous. This prompted him to throw up his hands, saying that they almost died. He grabbed Sim by the neck, starting to activate a familiar ability. The latter was surprised when Shawl asked if he had stored the bacon fuel, if he could not believe what he was seeing. Shell was using the storage skill. When the hovercraft was about to crash into the waters, it jolted and sent Sin to the ground inside. I was so confused, unable to distinguish who is an enemy and who is an ally. He also wondered if he really is the only one who possesses the storage skill. It turns out that it was all a lie invented by Tanya and Shell. Then he turned to his accomplice and asked him if he is sure that he killed Pico, to which he replied that no. But if he caused a blindingly fatal wound, he speculated that he will die from excessive bleeding in about a minute or two. Meanwhile, the desperate Sin began to ask. He turned to Tanya, asking her what her goal really is. She replied, saying that her faith and goals are not different from his. But Sin was skeptical at her words, thinking that he still has darts left. I was planning to shoot and kill them both with them, but it didn't work out. Sin was completely stripped of darts immediately after he pulled it out. A quick movement of shield strings, and you're done. He stole them. If I could not believe what had happened, there is not even a delay. It was as if the enemy knew what he was planning in advance. Tanya told him to stop resisting as there is no reason to fight. He also told Shield to calm down. There is no need to get agitated about handling a key. The latter said that he will do his best, but admitted that he is not sure. Sin stared at them, then saw the best opportunity to run away while they were still busy, but he wasn't trying to escape. I knew there's only one way out. He immediately picked up the weapon, which was lying on the ground, then knelt down on the ground, and pointed it at the enemies. He fired several magic bullets, but Seal did not flinch. The bullets were coming, but he's still commenting on Sim's lack of experience. He immediately used the storage ability, summoning an object to block the bullets. But it's a success for Sin, who was actually aiming to block Seal's vision. Now, he knows that he cannot see from which angle he will fire the gun. But Seal has already predicted this and reiterated that he indeed lacks experience. The gun exploded when he pulled the trigger, planting shrapnel in his body and face. Seal commented that it probably hurt a lot. Then he told her that she must have noticed it by now, then revealed that her true skill is not just one. Sin found out that Shan is not from Jenna and Tanya is an earthling. He felt an overwhelming difference in ability, like a wall he couldn't cross. Then he wondered how many years he had been a cloud beggar in this world. Tanya revealed that the ability I wished to copy them, and that the storage ability has been copied. But since the storage ability is special, there are limits to counterfeiting. He knelt down in front of Sin, reiterating that their goals are the same. At that moment, Sin was still feeling a sense of déjà vu. The fear and helplessness you are experiencing right now feels somehow familiar. He did not know that there was an ability to copy skills, and his skill was also taken. He finally realized that there is only one person capable of doing it. Looking back, he should have realized sooner the identity of the culprit, who caught him in Jenda. He is none other than Shiel, the man in front of him. From Paco's point of view, she briefly saw Shell firing an attack at her. Everything became a blur as I rushed to give him first aid. She saw him desperately trying to save her, while using his skill. Lying on the floor, she has already accepted that this is the end for her. You can see your past memories, your life flashing right before your eyes. He can also remember a nebulous figure, ordering him to return alive. Those orders, he doesn't think he can carry them out. Knowing that he is about to die, he forces himself to think while his brain is still working. The final enemy must be from the other side, the Kingdom Alliance. He wondered why they were hiding, and if they just randomly chose this aircraft. He had a lot of questions, asking how they got on this aircraft. He looked to the side, where Sin was currently aiming his counter weapon. He wondered why the enemies infiltrated alone. It was until the gun exploded in his face, seriously injuring him. This is when Seal spoke up, saying he must have figured it out by now. Standing before him, he revealed that he does not possess only one skill. Upon hearing this, Petko finally realized what was going on. He knew that it was the ability of premonition that allowed him to see the future. They saw which aircraft they would board, and attacked above the cargo hold. Activating his skill, he wondered if they were just puppets in a preordained future. He refused to fall like that, and picked up the gun in an act of resistance. Still, he knows that in this fight, failure was inevitable. She has already accepted his death, but she is determined to save at least Sin. Looking at the enemy, he is planning to see this fight to the end. Sin screamed in pure pain. The fragments of the exploded weapon embedded in his face and shoulder. But then, Shiel quickly charged at him and grabbed him by the neck. She took her finger to gesticulate silence as she made him shut up. Sin was surprised. The enemy actually prevented him from speaking, but to the surprise of both, a bullet was fired and grazed Sien's arm. It was Pico, struggling to get up while showing undying determination. He told her that it would be easier to wait for death, but then he overloaded her ability. Squeaky asked if this was the final act of Peak Challenge. For the last one, death no longer bothers him since he had already lost. But before he died, he thought it might also cause some disruption. The device in his hand hit by the bullet earlier has failed. This prompted Ciola to release Sin and divert her attention to Peiko. Tanya, worried, told him to quickly kill the stray cat and secure Sin, the hero. But Shin told him that this is enough and that they must escape now. After all, Peiko's self-destruction will begin in just 15 seconds. Sin looked at Peiko, worriedly calling her name. There are only 6 seconds left until teleportation becomes impossible for them. With this, Tanya had no choice but to accept and escape with Shiel. Their bodies began to disintegrate with a pink glitch as they said goodbye to Sin. Before they fully teleported away, he told her that they would meet again soon. Meanwhile, Peiko's last moments were filled with admiration for the hero. He is the only one who can save this rotten world, the real hero. Sin's desperate pleas were drowned out. Petko could only wish that he would save this world. He reiterated his plea as it began to emit a powerful light. The light was blinding, but it's not enough to hide the sadness on his face. From his ability to overload, a black hole was born, which tears up space and deforms it. Meanwhile, the warden can be seen with a dismissive look. The captain of the mobile team looks sad on the other hand. Then, a staff member approached the old man and whispered a report. He then revealed to everyone that there has been a prison break in Gina. Everyone in the room was silent, taking in the news they had just heard. Then, they asked the prison warden how they were going to deal with this problem. The old man pointed out the irony of the impregnable fortress losing its reputation. The team captain, Theo, could not contain his anger and lashed out at the old man. After all, the old man held a meaningless audience when they were busy. He finds the whole situation to be total nonsense and continues with his collapse. The old man turned to the warden asking if Theo was in his right mind. She explained that although she was from Earth, she is reliable. The old man then decided to end the hearing by saying that he is stressed by his presence. He then revealed a plan to capture the fugitive by involving the group of heroes. He slapped her on the shoulder, saying that someone has to take responsibility. Then he left the prison warden alone, speechless. The prison warden couldn't contain his anger and released his mana. He realized that everything was planned. They were used as scapegoats. Teo sighed as he sat back in the chair, helpless at his situation. He expressed his dissatisfaction with both the Empire and the Kingdom Alliance. He said that humans are fighting each other to want to satisfy their greed. The warden knew it was a calculated setup, his exclusion to prison, and Sin's escape. I knew they had to clean up this mess first, and hold a meeting with the executives. He added that they must ensure the assistance of the entire 6th floor strike team. After all, they must find the escaped convict, the hero without. After the chaos, the prison staff was busy tending to the injured. Several body bags lie on the ground containing the bodies of the deceased. The report mentioned many casualties and injuries, darkening the mood of the assistant. And in this incident, 2 members of the mobile team have been confirmed dead. When they opened the body bag, it revealed Amber's lifeless body. Now that the issue has been addressed, the warden suggests they move on to the next item on the agenda. A staff member does not seem to agree with his suggestion. But the prison warden considers it urgent to know how the enemies violated his security. He wondered how they overcome their system that prevents the use of magic. The testing room has the same system, and there are even station guards. He then suggested that they set up a timeline with the data they have gathered. The enemy team comprises a distortion skill user, a shadow skill user, and the holders. They speculated that an infected human with a swarm ability made contact with a guard. Then, the shadow infiltrated the guard's quarters. With this, the committee reconsidered the management of their accommodations, but the warden did not want interruptions, and asked what happened next. They reported that the returning guards underwent a typical general examination. But then it seems that they harbored a shadow skill user in their internal organs. The warden noticed. He tells of something, exclaiming that it all started in this part. He found out that they used a swarm ability to disable the security in the testing room. This implies that the infiltration was carefully planned and executed by his enemies. The revelation provoked murmurs among those attending the hearing. Meanwhile, he wondered if they were planning to go back to war. Then he got up, went to the mobile team, and asked their opinion. But they didn't seem to be taking the matter seriously, and were instead playing cards. Aaron said it was obvious that it was the work of the Empire. Caleb, on the other hand, agreed with Aaron's words. Cyrene was puzzled and surprised, but she didn't say anything. Mommy didn't talk either. He was sleeping peacefully. Meanwhile, Cecilia suggested that the kingdom did it because they were trying to secure the key. Zetra, on the other hand, continued reading her book, agreeing with Cecilia. A member of the mobile team was unable to attend the meeting. Ara Ember. Aaron then decided to release his letters. Then he asked them, "Isn't it more urgent to track the fugitive?" The executives were speechless upon hearing his words. The warden sighed, acknowledging that what he said was correct. After all, the order has already been given. Suddenly, Teo burst into the room and revealed that he had discovered the location of the fugitives. He was burning with rage, swearing that he was going to kill him. He completely believes that Sin was the one who killed his colleague. The warden asked if he planned to catch him by himself, to which he confirmed. But she can't allow it since they have already lost 2 members of the mobile team. In addition, he reasoned that Isaac was not good at combat, while Amber is just a novice. He added that he is also aware of that his line of work includes inevitable casualties. Theo could not reply. Everything the warden said is true. He could only grit his teeth in frustration and grief over the loss of his companions. He closed his eyes, forcing himself to swallow the hard truth. Then he called Satan and Mommy, who were still playing with the cards. He ordered the 2 of them to take care of this matter and work with the group of heroes. With her sleep disturbed, Mommy finds the mission annoying. Meanwhile, Siren quietly accepted the mission given to them. Mommy got up from her nap, saying that's her answer anyway. Responsibility to avenge a fallen comrade. Meanwhile, the teleportation magic led them to a hidden cave. Out of the crack in space came Shiel. Behind him was Tanya, demanding an explanation as to why he acted on his own. He did not kill Peko or secure the hero, and even his operation overlapped with that of the Empire. Shiel reasoned that they had to move that way, confusing Tanya. 2 keys are needed to unlock that particular item, the lightsaber and the token. Between them, the tab without is a problem that they cannot solve. Sin must figure out for himself how to overload his original storage ability, but Tanya said that they already had a backup plan for that before the summoning. However, Seal argued that Sin has a better way to acquire the overload. She wasn't convinced, but decided to let it go for now. But he reminded her that her goal continues. It is the only way the Seal problem can be solved. I knew that Seal wanted to return to Earth like her. Then he told her not to be so sensitive since Sin is alive and well. Meanwhile, Sin found himself wrapped in bandages while lying in bed, but was surprised to see that his hands were tied. Even his feet were restricted, making him wonder what this situation is. Then the curtains were opened, and out of it came an elf doctor and a reptilian man. The doctor greeted him with a smile, delighted that he was finally awake. He put on a surprised look when the doctor and his companion came up to him. When he didn't get a response from Sin, the doctor wondered if he was having trouble seeing. The lizard man, Sar, stroked his chin, scanning the human in front of him. Sin wondered who these people are and where he is currently. He tried to release his hands from the restraints, thinking that he needed to attack first and take them by surprise to escape. Sar noticed something strange in her eyes. He seems to have a lot of complaints. The doctor argued that they should not have tied him up, but they simply cannot leave an earthling free. Then, blue sparks crackled as he activated his storage ability, successfully breaking free of the binding strings in his hands. The doctor and Sar were surprised to see this. He quickly raised his hands afterwards, then placed her on the surface of his bed. After the activation of the ability, he was able to store the bed and free himself. He landed his feet on the ground, then immediately tried to flee from that place. The lizard man was about to chase when the doctor stopped him. Then he said that he will be the one to do it. While Oju was running, he was cursing in total panic. He wonders where he is and what had happened before. The last thing he can remember is Pico's sacrifice, self-destruction. He gritted his teeth in frustration and continued running. The doctor then used his mana to propel himself forward, allowing him to immediately close the distance and reach him. Sin was stunned. The doctor was able to do it with a simple release of magic power. The doctor grabbed his shoulder to stop him, then threw him to the ground to subdue him and restrict his movements. Then she sighed, telling him that he should not run in the hallway. He added that he should calm down first, but Sin, traumatized, distrusted everything. He used his storage ability on the ground, creating a hole that led to the lower floor. The two fell and crashed to the ground. Sin quickly regained his posture and looked around the room. There the other patients were, a goblin staring at him in bewilderment. Another woman was looking at him with the same expression, and a young elf girl was also looking at him with a puzzled expression. Sin prepares to get up quickly so he can escape already, only to be greeted by a mon-enhanced kick from a girl named Nari. He surprised himself by trying to block the furious red sparks of the attack. The kick was so powerful that he managed to make it fly. Nari asked what he was doing, but his voice was drowned out by his thoughts. He realized that she is not as strong as the mobile team. As she was talking, he thought he needed to lure her close and kill her. He was already so traumatized that he can't tell the difference between an ally and an enemy. All he knows is that he will do everything possible to escape. She can hear the voice of Sheil in her mind, echoing the trauma she experienced, but her thoughts were shattered when a man suddenly intervened. It was the doctor telling them enough was enough. Nari tried to disagree, but the doctor explained that Sin was from another world, and therefore, it is natural that everything is confusing for him. Then he turned to Sin, asking him if he had calmed down a little. Sin asked where that place was and how long he was unconscious. The doctor told him that he is in the 17th pioneer village of the kingdom. However, he still distrusted this man's words. The prison warden also said something like earthlings fall into other worlds. Then he asked if I had been asleep for noon. The doctor was confused for a moment and repeated his words. He then revealed that he was actually away for 3 days, surprising Sim. Meanwhile, boats began to drop glasses of water into the ocean. Approaching them was Momi, commenting on the Kingdom Alliance, mobilizing her entire workforce. Sirene did not respond, and continued to sculpt a toy in her hands. She is quietly making an effort, and was finally able to complete her masterpiece of a toy cat sculpture. But then, it was quickly snatched from his hands. Sirene was super mad to see Mom holding her little sculpture, while she assessed the situation. He realized that they were being checked by enemies. With his careless handling, the toy slipped from his grip. Then he fell into the water, which caused them to panic. But then, a man with long hair saw him as he was approaching. Then he pulled out a piece of paper with the word stop written on it. He activated his ability, releasing mana from the paper. Just in time, the mana was able to cover the falling toy. Mommy was silent when they saw these unknown figures approaching, and the same goes for Sirene. Turns out they've been waiting for these guys to arrive. It was revealed that these people are none other than the group of heroes. Denji was one of the earthlings who were summoned by Princess Tanya. He found himself surrounded by other earthlings as well. He saw Sin there, who he thought had become the protagonist of another world. While he was wondering where he was, mana suddenly floated inside his head. He held out his hand and looked at her, wondering about the command authority. Tanya decided that she would check everyone's skills, to which Sin happily agreed. But then, Denji already managed to activate his abilities without needing to be checked. He was surprised. This is the ability that this world gave him. It was as if I had always known how to use it. The information automatically entered his mind. With this, he wondered why the princess would even need to do a skill check. Suddenly, the sight of the princess and Sin failed. Denji was surprised when his existence also began to become a flaw. Everything that happened after was unknown, as it became an anomaly. When he opened his eyes later, he found himself on the floor. His head was aching, and even the other earthlings were unconscious as well. He saw the guards subduing Sin, who was desperately trying to explain himself. He looked at him confused, bewildered by what was happening. Sin continued to argue. He did nothing while the guards were capturing him. Back to the present, Denji has arrived to work with the mobile team. He approached them, saying that he is still not used to the situation. He began to berate them, calling Sirene a half-breed fool. The latter did not respond to his provocation, and simply remained silent. Meanwhile, Sato told Denji to show them some respect. But Denji doesn't see any reason to show manners to the people who ask them for favors. He confidently declared that they are the superiors in this discussion. Then he threw the toy cat on the floor to be picked up. Sirene knelt down and picked it up. Then she looked at him coldly without speaking, while Denji continued without showing manners. Then he asked for the reason why they were called, saying that they came in a hurry. Mommy didn't believe it since they took a whole day to arrive. They discarded him and began to orient him on the tracking of an escaped convict. Denji wondered why he had to, asking if they are incapable of cleaning up their own mess. Momi put up with his trashy personality, saying that this is how it turned out, and since the place is in complete disarray, it will be difficult to trace any traces of his escape. Since the mobile team's detection specialist died, they needed the hero's skill. Denji turned to Cassie and told her to try, to which he agreed. He immediately jumped into the water, while activating his ability. When he came into contact with water, he activated his ability. This allowed him to read the memories of what happened at the place. Almost then, he held Sato's shoulder, while the latter started his projection skill. There, they saw the final moments of Pico's powerful self-destruction. But it is impossible for Sato to know what happened inside the non-linear space. Then he decided to rewind the projection, just before the explosion. There, they saw the black hole conjured by Pico's powerful distortion ability. Meanwhile, Mommy commented that the group of heroes seems to have been formed in a hurry. But as they were watching the screening, Mommy was shocked. A powerful pink manner enveloped the silhouette of a person. Following his trail, he found the silhouette thrown away by the bouncing phenomenon. Denji asked what that was, curious and confused. Mommy explained that it is a rare occurrence when using spacetime abilities, unstable spacetime. This often results in nearby humans being randomly thrown across time and space. In other words, the person they are chasing now has fallen into the near past. Meanwhile, Sim was taken by Sarah to the place where he appeared. Sar explained that he is quite far from the village, and that he was lucky. This made Sin even more confused. The events since after the explosion and now do not match. He wondered how he was supposed to take this. Then he asked them what he was doing in that forest. Suddenly, Nari appeared and reported that Tanya was holding a press gun. The most surprising thing is that Sin had returned by the time he was about to be summoned. The presenter asked Tanya why she wanted to summon 4 heroes. Then he remembered the massacre that happened years ago. Then he added that the Kingdom Alliance is weak in power, so they decided that heroes are necessary. People's words echoed as Sin looked at him. People complained about Tanya's decision, while Sin asked Sar to tell the story one more time. Then he revealed that it was the first time after years, and to summon 4 is unprecedented. If he noticed that the murder of the princess had not yet happened, being confused about what had happened, Tanya is still alive. And no hero had been summoned, as if he had returned to the past. He deduced that it was because of the destruction of Pico. Sin then covered his mouth in confusion. A few days later, regenerative medicine took effect on him, but scars are inevitable, while Sin simply ruled it out. The doctor handed him a mirror. Sin then saw his reflection with scars on his face. He smiled, saying that it was unpleasant. The doctor told him that his hair was cut because of the treatment, but Sin ignored him and asked about a way to return to Earth. The doctor wondered awkwardly how to explain it. Then he tried to explain it simply. He admitted that returning is impossible, which caused Sin to respond with disappointment. Then he asked Sin if he is familiar with Creole because it was similar to the Earth and its dimension. That is why it is possible to come from the Earth, but not the other way around. Sin asked him if it is possible to modify the door between the two. The doctor hummed as if he was thinking of something. Then he told her that the gate was created thousands of years ago. Without realizing that the technology had been lost, the doctor revealed that it can be enlarged, but one more amount is needed. Massive amount of energy. And that energy is enough to cause destruction in both worlds. Sin stared, saying it was impossible. Then he thanked the doctor, telling him that he understood already. He opened the door, but the doctor's words stopped him. The doctor admitted that his world might be chaotic, but it's a place worth living in. Sin then closed the door. He looked down as he pronounced that he cannot return. He recalled Tanya saying that she had the same goal as him. The mercenaries were face to face, having their duel. Their mouths met halfway. The man named Red suddenly threw Neri's mouth aside. He placed his mouth over her head, pushing her away as he used it. Then he told her that she should hold on for at least 3 minutes to do her help. Then he revealed that traces of monsters have been found nearby, and there is also a leader among them. He reminded her that if she let her guard down, she would die. Sin watched outside, thinking that he should establish a good relationship with them, just because he needed information. As he needed to find a way to increase his own power. His eyebrows furrowed, thinking that it's like winning the favor of an NPC. At night, inside a dimly lit hallway, Sin was sleeping peacefully when a pair of shoes silently stepped on. Nari watched him holding his dagger tightly. A small stone flickers on his palm. Then he lands on her. Sin then realized that it wasn't working. First, he tried to store objects continuously to create an ace, but the materialization had some delays, since it takes time to retrieve and store objects. Then he raised his hand, clenching his fist, while knowing that he can store gases, but it doesn't matter. He looked to the side, thinking that he could store air for an invisible attack. But gases and liquids can only be stored in small quantities. After storing a couple of objects, he realized his limits and capacity restrictions. She covered her mouth as she smiled. It had 1,000 slots with 10 tons as its limit. Then he salivates, thinking it's a magical exhaustion. He realized that his magical ability is strange, as it is too artificial. Sin began to feel dizzy at the thought of getting acquainted with his skill. Then he looked to the side as he noticed something. A foot suddenly emerged from the window. Nari came out of there with a knife in his hand. He found Sin lying on his bed with his eyes closed. She looked at him in silence, scanning his face. Sin suddenly opened his eyes as a blue light manifested on his palm. Nari suddenly recoiled as her eyes widened in shock. Caleb suddenly appeared inside the room. He raised his gun, while telling Nari to confess his crime. She got alarmed and asked who was there. She brandished her knife, cutting Caleb in half. Her eyes widened as she realized it was just an illusion. Sin suddenly emerged from the side with the intention of hitting her. Her gaze fell on him, but she was sent back by his attack. Then she winced looking at him directly. Sin told her to stop, while he pointed his finger at her. He told her to end up here and asked her why she tried to kill him. Sin suddenly stopped, considering that the situation was bad. He had almost run out of magic after using the special team skill. Nari looked at him intensely. Then she admitted that it was a misunderstanding, and that she was trying to protect him. Sin's eyes widened in disbelief. A loud noise suddenly caught the attention of both of them. Sin asked confused when the bell suddenly rang. Nari immediately turned her gaze, but froze when a giant dinosaur suddenly appeared between them. They both seemed surprised to see him. Sin suddenly asked what was going on when the dinosaur raised its claw. Nari instantly took a step forward and cut off the monster. Then she looked at him with crackling energy on her sword. The dinosaur's fingers were cut off while it was squealing. Sin started thinking about it, confused as to why a dinosaur appeared. The dinosaur opened its jaw. Then, all of a sudden, he lunged at Sin. The latter dodged his attack, confused as to why the dinosaur is chasing him. He then raised his hand as a blue light emerged from his fingers. He began to sweat, looking for his weak point. Nari told her to aim for the nucleus in her belly. Her eyes widened when she saw the dinosaur. Sin was surprised to see the monster's core. Nari then pointed out that he was over there, while Sin started gathering blue light and pointed at the dinosaur. A massive block hits his core, causing him to fall and wince. Sin was crushed underneath, feeling its heaviness. He suddenly became silent. He then covered his mouth when he started vomiting. Nari asked worriedly if he was injured somewhere. Something suddenly landed on the ground. Nari looked up and saw a tentacle. Both were alarmed at his sudden appearance. The dinosaur began to move underneath. Then he instantly emerged from the ground. He raised his fist ready to strike. Nari quickly threw his dagger in his direction. An explosion suddenly erupted from him. The dinosaur screamed in pain when the dagger hit his palm. The doctor and others were lying lifeless on the ground. Sin gritted his teeth, seeing through his plans. Then he started to move when Shin suddenly appeared and told him that he would do something silly. Shin reminded him that he is not a hero of a book. He asked Sin if he needed to feel guilt and regret from this world. He told her that Sin has already decided. Sin fell when Seo told him that his choice is to escape from this world. Sin suddenly gritted his teeth, closing his eyes in frustration. Then he got up and started running away. Nari asked if Sin did it while replied that he went out to train. A massive crater and cut logs were left, confusing the two about their skill. Nari looked at him in silence. Then he noticed a footprint downstairs. He thought it was dangerous. Meanwhile, Sin kept running, while considering himself a fool. The dinosaur suddenly caught up with him, looking directly at him. Sin stared at it, but was stopped by the sudden movement of the dinosaur. He gritted his teeth in pain when the dinosaur cut his shoulder. Sin cursed, realizing that Roland can't avoid any attacks. He stood in front of the monster, saying that he would no longer run away. Although he dedicated himself to doing whatever was necessary and was from another world, he does not want to abandon the people who helped him. Green and red ashtrays are swinging in the air. It was Ari and the dinosaur fighting each other. She then launched another attack towards him as he was left staring at her. Her eyebrows furrowed from using her skill continuously, since it's killing her. Her eyes widened in shock to see that the dinosaur was gone. She then gritted her teeth in confusion as she saw the dinosaur evade her attack. The dinosaur suddenly pounced, releasing green fragments to attack her. Resolutely, he clenched his sword and began to strike in the air, releasing red energy. The dinosaur grunted in pain as it felt the cuts. Nari stared at him in exhaustion as the green liquid began to gush. Sin raised his hand as blue energy coiled around him. A large object materialized between them, hitting the dinosaur. Nari became alarmed and grabbed Sin's neck. The dinosaur hit the ground as they instantly evaded the attack. Sin flew out as Nari gritted his teeth in the fight. The green liquid started gushing out when the dinosaur's limb was severed. Sin was startled on the ground as the dinosaur stared at him. For years, he avoided combat to concentrate on survival, but the order was applied a day ago. The dinosaur squealed along with his comrade as they looked over the cliff. The order they had given has been updated. A figure manifested himself by saying that Delta A1 has met its archenemy. He told Delta that the enemy must be eliminated. Delta A1 scanned Sin's physical ability and high attack power. Then he proceeded to Nari, saying that she has a high physical ability. The buttons on his back began to send signals. Delta A1 put his hands to his head as he made his decision. The two looked at him in alarm, while their eyes opened resolutely. A trail of green light suddenly pierced through them, while Delta A1 instantly appeared on their backs. Sin's object broke in half. Then he looked down with his mouth ajar. Nari's sword split in two, while Sin's eyes opened as his chest was cut open. A sudden explosion occurred inside the village. Sar followed the other dinosaur on the roof. Then he raised his spear to strike. He instantly threw it before the monster. The latter evaded the blow while looking back. Red appeared at his side, pointing his sword. He was able to cut the dinosaur's chest, making it squeal. He then clenched his sword, releasing a blinding red light. The dinosaur died instantly, leaving a huge hole in its stomach. Red asked Sar how many monsters are left, to which he replied to. Red scoffed, saying that there is still no trace of a leader. Nari appeared in his mind while he was preparing the barrier, but he knows that if he fails, they will die. Meanwhile, Sin and Nari were surprised by the sudden attack. Sin's eyes widened as he fell to the ground. He was perspiring continuously, while considering that the world was ruined. Back at the detention center, I was sitting in silence. He gritted his teeth, being excited to fall into this dimension. He knows that safety in this world is not a joke, but creatures suddenly wander. Then he wondered how it ended up like this. While cursing in frustration, he was dragged away knowing nothing, and couldn't even hit Tanya once. Now, he gritted his teeth as he was hit by Delta O1. Then he looked over to his side. He asked Nari about his teleportation ability, and ordered him to move it. Nari grimaced, saying it's possible, but she was hesitating. Sin still urged her to move him behind the dinosaur. The monster started to get closer, while Sin begged Nari to move him. Delta O1 appeared behind them, while Nari was telling him that he doesn't know. Then he grabbed her arm as a red lightning crackles. Sin appeared behind Delta O1 as the creature noticed him. Sin thought that if he used his ability, he would end up like Peiko. He remembered Seo telling him that he has no experience. Then he clenched his fist as a blue lightning crackles. He assured himself that he was fine as he felt his magic gathering. Enthusiastically, he raised his fist to launch an attack. His fist landed on Delta O1's back, making him growl. Sin winced in pain as Delta O1 vomited a green liquid. His heart began to crack. He then landed on the ground with Sin on his back. Sin grimaced as he gasped for air. He gritted his teeth as Delta O1 started to move again. He opened his eyes as green energy began to crackle around his body. His arm began to move, leaving Sin incredulous. Red suddenly appeared and cut off Delta O1's head, staining his sword. He was standing silently, while Sin collapsed on the floor. Red asked if he was still alive. Then she knelt down before him, while saying that Sin stake everything, just as the prince said. Barely opening his eyes, Sin asked Red. The latter told him that they will talk once he wakes up. The prince told him that a stranger will appear from the earth. He added that he was in the 17th Pioneer Village. He then ordered him to lead his subordinates and infiltrate the kingdom. Red was listening as I told him to secure and protect the person. Red asked His Highness if he had seen him again. The prince told her that everything will be fine. Back in the village, the doctor cheerfully said that he had become a patient. Sin then replied that at least no one died. The doctor expressed his gratitude to him because he had risked his life for them. Sin's eyes widened. Then he grabbed the blanket while asking about Nari. The doctor lowered his gaze, mentioning his name. Red interferes, saying he had a date with Sin first. He asked the doctor if he could leave them for a moment. The doctor asked him not to do anything weird. Red then sat down in his place, making sure the doctor had left before speaking. He asked if Sin slept well due to his mana exhaustion. Sin asked if he was from the Empire, causing Red to get straight to the point. He revealed that the attack happened due to Sin's mana traces. He left a mess on the ground, causing monsters to be attracted to his mana. Red told him that only those who had been in the war knew about it. Sin grabbed the sheet, saying he doesn't know. He closed his eyes, wanting to say something. Red clarified that she wasn't blaming him, and was just bringing him information. He assured her that it happened because Sin did not know. Red revealed the true identity of the monsters. Sin burst out laughing, not expecting such a story. Then I was waiting for any demon continent and demon king. Red clutched his chin as if he were thinking. He admitted that there is something similar to that. He asked Sin if he knew about the dimensional gate. He asked if I knew why they can't adjust the size of the ticket. It was because technology is not of their world. The people of your world copied the gate of demons. Sin replied that it was too irresponsible. Then he asked why they needed to summon people from Earth to their war. He questioned why he was kidnapped. Red admitted that when they summon, he turns out to be from Earth. Sin asked what he meant by that. Red began to tell him why he was summoned as a hero. It was because Earthlings can see souls. Sin burst out laughing when he heard it. He considered it nonsense. Her eyes widened as she realized something. He suddenly remembered seeing Tania's soul. Red noticed that Sin got the idea. Sin decided to get up, wanting to tie the story. He walked around, asking if the enemies were demons, but Red replied that it was the kingdom. Sin tried to reach for the bucket. Red admitted that they are trying to find out the involvement of the demons through Sin. He added that demons become spirits after death and can be revived. Sin wiped his face as Red continued. Sin told him to cooperate, but not for free. He held up his finger, telling her to train him, meet the prince, and fight alongside him. Red admitted that the third one is beyond his authority, and asked for that certain event. Sin excitedly told her that they will prevent Tanya from summoning the heroes. With determination, he said he will undo everything. Meanwhile, Seal was lying on the floor. The device on his chest began to count. Then he smiled when the best one came back. The hooded man asked if Seal had a good dream, in which he replied. Seal stood up as the man admitted that it is difficult to experiment avoiding Tanya's eyes. Then he added that he had to use his brain to survive. Seal began to prepare, reminding him that his survival is the top priority. Sin prepared for training. Red told him that he is using the lowest ranked armor for mercenaries. Then he just agreed to it. Red reminded her not to put on a disappointed face, as she will thank him soon. He pointed to the training area, telling Sin to run 50 laps. Sin's face twisted in disbelief. His shout echoed throughout the training area. Red was confused about his reaction since he asked for it. Sin replied, telling him that 50 laps is too much. Red sighed with disappointment. Then he told Sin that if he is afraid, he can die. Sin turned his gaze in shock, while Red smiled and asked if he was afraid. Sin's eyebrows furrowed, telling Red not to say that to a Korean. The latter simply mocked him, telling Sin that he will follow him closely to keep an eye on him. Sin started running, determined to do 50 laps. Later, he was found lying on the ground. It feels like I'm dying of exhaustion. Red sat down, telling Sin that he hadn't even done half of the half. Sarah suddenly appeared and called him. He then noticed Sin's body on the ground, thinking it was a corpse. Red got up and asked for Nari. Sa replied that he got a prosthetic arm and will be back soon. Sin remembered Nari as the girl who fought with him. He smiled slightly, relieved that he could return. Red remained silent as he half opened his mouth. He then scolded Sin for still having the energy to talk like that, making him complain. Red then told him to run towards the village. Sin then ran inside the small path, while Red followed him around. He reminded Sin to keep racing, since he hasn't done 50 laps yet. Then he offered to give her a special lecture. Sin then told him that running is not boring at all. He told Sin that running is to maintain his stamina in the fight. Sin told him that he understood why he needed resistance with the mana. Red confirmed, saying Sin is the type to bet on a single hit. The latter unconsciously repeated Red's words. Then he remembered to play games and use only shotguns with high damage. With exhaustion, I missed the days I spent playing. Red told him to stop complaining until he could take a swing at it. He added that power-type attacks, if miscalculated, can lead to death. Sin suddenly remembered the technique in power-type attacks. Red praised him and asked him how he knew, to which he replied. Red dismissed him and informed him that his mana is only slightly above average. He added that Sin had a lot to learn before he was able to. Sin stares at him, understanding the situation. Then he complained about whether they had to talk about it now. Red told him that he has to do it because he will run until dawn. Meanwhile, inside the forest there was a vehicle. Denji complained about being bored next to Sirene. He told her the time zone is different and tracking him might lead somewhere else. Sirene remained silent with her eyes closed, while Sato and Mami did not utter a single word. Denji asked if the others hadn't overlooked it. The driver pulled the gear lever as the car stopped. He almost told her they were aware, while he was trying to get them out of the car. The team got off, while the others complained about long journey. Denji asked if they were looking for Sin, telling them to catch him fast. Under the moonlight, Sin can be seen assuming a fighting stance with his sword. On the other side of the field was Red, looking at him indifferently. She stared at him for a moment, preparing for combat. With an explosive kick to the ground, he propelled himself forward. Their swords collided as the duel began. Red aimed at Sin's legs, but the latter was able to block with his sword. The old man quickly pushed his sword to the side, causing Sin's blade to deflect backward. In response, he crouched down to gain momentum. He then stood up with a powerful slash that sent Red's sword back. The old man can feel the weight behind the opponent's attack. Then he commented that this is just an approval for Sin, to which he nodded, and said that they barely arrived on time. The next day, Sin was discussing what to do next. He said that they have about a month left to prevent Tanya from summoning a hero. They will need to infiltrate the palace and subdue Tanya, then destroy the hero summoning magic. But for this plan to work, I knew that only 4 people are not enough. Her said that the captain requested reinforcements from the crown prince, but it is impossible. He added that they have to somehow solve this problem on their own, but it's silly for Sin. I knew they would just be wasting their lives like that. Red and Sar were speechless after hearing what he had just said. Then he wondered what the crown prince was thinking, confused about whether his goals were really aligned. He is grateful for the help, but this does not make sense to him. Then he turned to Red, saying that he is not telling them the most important information. The latter only said that it is not a problem to be solved at the moment. Sin exclaimed in frustration. While Red mentioned Tanya and Sale, he recalled Sin's claim about Tanya, but there is no solid evidence that she is a demon. Sin insisted, saying that he saw it with his own eyes when they traveled together. But according to the investigation, there is nothing wrong with Tanya's records. Red added that demons don't have the ability to maintain a royal status for long. More than 95% of the demons died in the war 11 years ago. Unless she's a historical figure, there's no way Tanya could be a demon. They also clarified whether she used space teleportation abilities before the aircraft exploded. Sina felt, asking what is the problem about it. Red reminded him that one of the conditions was to be able to see souls. People on Earth can recognize souls. The people of Isekai have mana and abilities, while demons can be revived as spirit bodies. Sin was slowly starting to understand what the old man was trying to say. Red then revealed to her that this is a racial trait. Her added that just as a person has an ability, a racial trait is also basically one. In other words, the abilities and activities of the spiritual body are not compatible. Sin sighed, admitting that this discussion is confusing for him. Her identity aside, she's having a hard time figuring out her target. Why would he orchestrate a fake incident? And why did he put him in prison and then get him out again? Meanwhile, Sar took a piece of bread on the table. He chewed it, saying he's hungry, and his brain feels like it's running out of sugar. Red spoke up, saying that it's understandable since he has to eat a lot to maintain his body. Sin then spoke up, asking them to please concentrate on the meeting. Red said it's a chronic problem that occurs when a team has two leaders. He remembered Seal, saying that he has different ideas than Tanya. He looked down and said it doesn't matter what they are. You can speculate from what Sin told you that he is an unpredictable guy. Sin was silent for a moment, contemplating the situation. Then he came out after the meeting, only to see Nari training his body. He was doing push-ups with his new prosthetic arms, trying to get used to it. Without looking, he asked her if the meeting was over yet. He did not answer, and instead asked if he had adapted to the prosthetic arm. She said that in some way, then praised the technologies developed thanks to the two wars. It was so advanced that some people can even replace their eyes with prosthetics. Hearing this, Sin asked if there's also an artificial skin. Nari asked why would I need that when a mechanical arm is cooler. Then they sat on the floor together in silence. While breaking a piece of bread, Nari said her father told her to thank him. He added that it was amazing she didn't run away after screwing up. Then he added that they were both from Isekai, so they don't really like outsiders or heroes. While checking his prosthetic arm, not to mention the God Mode incident, he said Isekai, people hate it, but it was a normal reaction since the Earthlings harmed them. But after siding with the Crown Prince, his thoughts have changed a little. Sin admitted that he is irritated by what he said, because it victimizes the people of Isekai. He added that there is always conflict and chaos between Earthlings and Isekai people, because each person's experiences have a different perspective. While speechless, Nari said that it was good to be the Crown Prince's companion. That's because the Crown Prince will also save the Earthlings. But in Sin's eyes, it's like they're idolizing a savior. He doesn't care about the top brass hiding their own secrets. Escape from this world, and eliminate everyone who gets in the way. That's all that matters to him. The next day, activists began demonstrating for Tanya to stop the hero invocation. Their cries and pleas were filled with despair. They waved their banners for the top brass to see. Among them was Sin, desperately screaming as he demonstrated with people. They expressed their strong disagreement about the summoning of heroes in front of the guards. Meanwhile, Nari seemed to be suffering from other people's shame. Looking at his partner demonstrating with people, he wondered if this is okay. A month ago, Sin was opening a can of what appeared to be soda. Sar was sitting quietly in front of him, watching him drink the whole can of the cold drink. With his patience running out, he knocked with his hands, and also asked for a sip, but just to annoy him, he inverted both cans of soda in his mouth. He crumpled the can afterwards, fascinated that there was also soda, and it doesn't fall out. Sar sipped her soda, mentioning that there have been outsiders falling in this place, and this soda is the product of her effort to recreate the taste of home. While drinking his soda, Sin repeated Sar's words earlier. The latter crumpled up his tin and placed it on the table. Then he suggested that they now create a quick plan to break in. Zar took out a map of the internal structure of the royal castle. They knew that it would be a problem to overcome the security route, but he pointed to another point on the map, saying that that is the most problematic thing. It is a space that blocks the mana. The 5 field is arranged so that it surrounds the central hall. It separates the space from the outside so that it cannot exit or enter with space teleportation. That leaves them no choice but to enter on foot. However, it seems that they can use mana inside the central hall though, but Sar knew that this was impossible. Individual skills aside, the number of people is too low. After some thought, Sin asked for more information about the outsiders. Sar asked what's up with the sudden change, to which he said he's having a good idea. Sar then revealed that his international standing is not good. They are socially despised, which makes them congregate in this country. Some countries even treat them like cattle by inciting protests around the world. I was continually thinking about ways to get in, continually thinking about protests. He looked down at the map and analyzed it carefully. After a moment, he tapped his fingers on a specific area on the map. Although he wasn't sure, he decided that they should try using a certain method. Back to the present, Sin was acting passionately as if he were a real protester. With him at the front, he gathered the other protesters and charged at the guards. Seeing them advancing, the guards immediately prepared for a confrontation. Sin looked straight ahead, waiting for an opening to burst inside. When the opportunity presented itself, he slipped between them in the middle of the chaos. But then, a guard was waiting to intercept him. Sin immediately wrapped the flag he was using around his pole. He then hit the guard, using it as a weapon, managing to take the weapon out of the enemy's hands. Sin immediately prepared his stick for another attack, but the guard hit first, and forced him to block instead. However, the guard's attack was so sharp that his stick broke. He silently wondered if this is the limit. While the guard was looking at him with sharp and cutting glances, he hit his shield with his weapon, preparing for another fight. But with his stick broken, Sin considered that the wisest choice was to run away. The guard was angry that I was running away again. She could only curse in frustration since she can't chase him because she needs to protect. In a narrow alley, Sin found himself panting and catching his breath. He wiped the sweat off his face, saying he's really sick of this. But then, he became alarmed when he noticed a presence, and immediately scanned around. Then he looked straight ahead, asking the identity of the old man who was there. The old man was holding a cane. He did not answer for a moment. Noticing her grown bangs, Sin asked if the old man could even see. The old man smiled at him, saying that he can see quite well. Sin told him that he is amazing, but the old man considers him more amazing. He mimicked how Sin fought the guards earlier, ignoring Sin's questions. The old man knew that he used practical fencing for monsters and praised him. This alarmed Sin. The man in front of him is not an ordinary old man. The old man then said that the last part of what he did without was disappointing. He said Sin should have stabbed if he couldn't deflect the attack. But Sin was sick of the old man's nonsense inside. He said hitting a police officer is a serious crime that could get him in more trouble. The man's cheeks swelled with restrained laughter, but in the end he could not contain it and burst out laughing as he recognized his words. His tone changed then when he asked if he doesn't think something is wrong in the world. While living their daily and mundane life, Earthlings suddenly fell into the world, and it falls. They left their daily life behind of their own free will, and they will never be able to return. It is also painful for their families on Earth who were left behind with no idea. The old man then questioned the purpose of the hero's invocation. Then he told her that his mission is to prevent more innocent Earthlings from falling into this place. Hearing his words, Sin immediately accepted the man's offer of a handshake. He expressed his desire to join, and asked his name, to which the old man said, "It is." After a while, Nari was seen scolding Sim for executing a reckless method. The latter played the fool, saying that it is good enough as long as it works. Angry, Nari angrily grabbed her head, which caused Sin to apologize. He then told her that he doesn't seem to care about the consequences of his action, but he reasoned that it's all or nothing anyway, and they will die if they fail. He added that since that is the case, he will choose to gamble his life every time. Nari took a seat listening to his words, that they are valid. But for her, he doesn't have to risk his life for an uncertain outcome. He added that the road ahead is something no one has ever taken. Let's say they manage to stop Tanya from doing the hero summoning. What will happen to him? Sin admitted that he has no idea, speculating that he would just disappear. But that's exactly the problem Nari is seeing. Sin doesn't even know what the outcome of his actions would be. With this, Sin felt trapped alone in the darkness with no ray of hope. To be honest, he's really lost and doesn't know where to go. She understands that the only plausible answer for now is to stop the summoning of the hero, but she has a deeper question. What if she couldn't change him? But if he does not have time to think about failure, this is an opportunity for him, and it would be a waste if he did nothing. That's why he's committed to doing the best he can right now. Hearing this, Nari decided that she will help him, and told him to ask the captain. Sin was confused when he heard her words, and asked what she meant. He clarified that he will help with the crown prince's goal, and the plan to change isekai. Afterwards, Sin learned that Nergal was hailed as the honorary hero. He learned from Red that they fought in different places, but he knows about him. Rumors speak of a simple outsider who was not a summoned hero who fought better. It all happened 20 years ago, during the Third Great Demon War. And 9 years later, after the war ended, he suddenly disappeared. Sin commented that everyone seemed to be involved in serious things, and the reason for the chaos was because of the God Mode incident. Red on the other end of the phone, asking Sin if he knew why isekai is so chaotic. Then he revealed that all this is due to balance. In isekai, there is no country with the power to be a focal point, so everyone acts like lay plays. And hero summoning magic is the reason behind all that, because any country with enough luck can summon a powerful ability like the God Mode. With this, someone has to become the focal point of isekai, so they must first destroy the balance. Sin asked Red if his goal was to realize the plan to change, and he falls. He agreed, and said that it will also be beneficial for Earthlings. Sin asked him when he was planning to join, as everyone is working hard. But Red is also in a difficult situation. It will be difficult for him to create an alibi. With that, they decided to end the call. Sin then realized that Red wanted to make Isekai a better place to live. But that leaves one question. What about Tanya and Seal? While walking, he stopped in his tracks as soon as he noticed someone. It was Nergal, all smiles and waving as he greeted him. Sin jokingly told the old man that he was a creepy stalker. Noor told him that she might have thought of him as an uncle, which upset Sin. Then he turned his gaze to the side, towards the protesters who were asking the princess to stop the invocation of the hero. Meanwhile, some citizens were complaining that they should be arrested for noise pollution. They added that these protesters are multiplying like cockroaches and demanding a lot. C couldn't help but get angry when he heard what they were saying, but Nergal told him to come and follow him quickly. They stopped in front of a worn-out door. They entered, then went through a staircase that leads to the basement. They continued walking along that narrow path. When they reached the end, Sin scanned the place silently. What greeted him was the sight of mysterious people waiting for them. Nergal introduced him as a new member originally from Korea. He asked if they had heard of him, to which some said that his parents were originally from there. Sin asked what it was about, to which Nergal replied that it was a simple test. He then deduced that this was to confirm if he really was from Earth. Suddenly, a man took a step forward. He stood behind Sin, surprising him by declaring the second test. He grabbed him by the shoulder and told him not to move. They pulled out a sword, saying it would hurt more if he moved. One hand was reaching for a knife. The guy then grabbed him and picked him up. Sin's hand was tied to the table with a seal in his mouth. The knife scratched his arm, while the white-haired man asked to take some blood. Black burst out laughing as Sin looked at him confused. They extracted it from home to check if it really was from Earth. The man looked closely at the sample, because the blood of the people and Sacha and the people of the Earth repel each other. Negril added that their beliefs should never meet. Sin dismissed it, asking about the fuss he made. Negril understood this and pointed out that guys are afraid of needles. The brothers cried, telling them that needles are scary. Negro laughed, saying that the brothers are cheerful friends. Sin cursed, thinking they were fucked. Negro ordered them to be quiet, planning to tell them what they will do from now on. He pointed a finger, telling them to deliver a message to stop the hero summoning. Sin plunged into deep thoughts, surprised by the different atmosphere. He realized that discrimination and persecution are on another level. Negro revealed that the people of Isekai used the people of Earth. For thousands of years, outsiders were used as demon detectors. It was because those who are not officially summoned had weak mana and abilities, and heroes were managed as tactical and strategic weapons. Black clenched his fist, wanting to break the cycle. Sin and Negril looked serious as he added that they will kill Tanya to stop them. Sin's eyes widened in confusion, while the others cheered Negril's plan. Sin thought about the reputation of Earthlings after that. Then he reflected, looking at the people in front of him. He remembered what Nari had said. Sin closed his eyes, thinking that it is the same as him, with no other good way, because Earthlings have been used as demon detectors. And the discriminatory attitude has taken deep roots. He was thinking about how to solve the emotional gap, his eyebrows furrowed at the thought. Then he remembered Nari's eyes prompting him to curse under his breath. Negro pointed out that the abandoned factory would be his meeting place. He revealed that it is full of criminal organizations and their business partners. Then he warned them that the people of Isekai might attack, so he reminded them to be prepared for clashes. He told them to be ready to kill outsiders and Isekai people. Meanwhile, they had reached the abandoned factory. Sin and the others walked forward. He passed by an old man and a child. Then they caught his attention as the boy looked directly at him. Negril admitted that it's kind of sad because they were from the Earth. He revealed that they fell on Isekai and left their homes on Earth. As they walked, he added that they were slaves in other countries. The brother asked if he is strong enough. Negro replied that he is at a usable level, and even if he is not good, he could help Coco. The latter asked if Negro would not ask for his opinion. Sin told them it's a simple problem because he just needed to show his strength. The group suddenly stopped in front of the two men. Black moved forward, leading the negotiations. They both looked at him, asking if he was the customer. Negro claimed, wanting to meet the best man, while they were asking for money. Negril moved his head over one of the brothers. Then he showed a bag of money. Negril asked if they could let them in now. Sin looked back, seeing a bunch of hyenas around. The boss appeared, acceding to his request. He smiled broadly and told them to come in. Sin Center's mouth opened, thinking that they would be entering the tiger's mouth. His eyebrows furrowed, assuring himself. He started following his team, moving according to their training. The boss asked if they needed something to drink, to which Negro refused. The boss couldn't believe it since everything is expensive liquor. Black ruled it out. Wanting to get straight to the point, he brought the promised amount of money, urging him to deliver the goods. The boss lit a match. He raised his hand and mentioned Negril's past. He added that he was a war hero who disappeared afterwards. Sin's eyes narrowed as Negril asked the boss's motive. The latter asked why he suddenly needed all the weapons. Negro scoffed, asking if he needed to report as a customer. The boss snapped his fingers, saying he had a point. His subordinates then took out a box. They removed the foil covering it, revealing 5 magic guns and mana engines. Negro asked the brother named Kim to check the goods. Kim told him that it is old and poorly maintained, but it works well. The boss offered to test the clearance and aimed to test the gun. Negro refused, saying that it had already happened. They went outside while being stopped, but Negril was firm. He asked what was going on as Negril admitted something was wrong. The boss smiled suspiciously, telling him that he was right. Kim got confused and noticed that they were buying time. The team then descended the stairs. Kim told them there were no families in sight. Negro ordered Coco to summon her relative to call Choi. Coco sat down, asking how many batteries to use. Black replied to use the weakest one. Coco stated as she started to summon. Sin was curious, but Kim told him that Coco uses batteries to summon. He asked about the batteries, but it was revealed that they were the lives Coco had taken. A creature suddenly appeared. Sin exclaimed that it was cute, but Kim objected. An eye suddenly appeared in the creature's stomach, causing the two of them to stare at it in disbelief. The creature complained to protect its body, while Sin pointed to the juice dripping from it. The creature soared high, entered the room, and found that they had escaped. Then he goes out the window, looking at the silhouettes from below. There were a lot of people surrounding the abandoned factory. Someone noticed the creature, and the other ordered to shoot it. The long-haired one raised his spear, aiming for a blow. It hits the creature directly, leaving a hole in it. Coco then vomited and apologized for not delivering the message. Message to Choi. Kim assured him that the signal passed. From the binoculars, Choi knows it's time. Kim raised his hand. The energy swirled around as he snapped his finger. Choi suddenly appeared in front of them. He held out the weapons, saying that his mana is exhausted. Sin asked curiously if the brothers had changed, at which Black confirmed. Negro explained that the twins are outsiders, so their mana is low. He squeezed the gun, urging Sin to use his hidden letter. Negro pats him on the shoulder and tells him to try asking the crown prince. Sin confirmed that Negra knew about it. Sin suddenly summoned his sword, causing Choi and Coco to react with confusion. Sin decided to hide the capabilities of his abilities. He turned around and told them that it is an inventory that can hold an object. Negro froze when he heard it, which caused Sin to call him. He was silent, but instantly told Sin that it is useful. Negro asked them to listen because his client sold them. Sin was wondering if he had been too reckless in revealing his ability. The team fought their way through as Negro ordered them to survive. Meanwhile, Red knows there's not much time left to prepare. He decided that he will finally teach Sin how to emit mana and move his body. Remembering the fight they had against that monster, Fred asked him if he even knew how he survived fighting that monster. Sin explained that he felt he would die if he used the skill again, so he instinctively did it. He explained that the broadcast continuously consumes mana. While the cost of a skill is always the same, he finds the property of overwriting what overlaps amazing. But still, a person can die from a single hole. He compared it to Sin using a knife of a butcher to catch a simple chicken. Then he handed her a sword, saying that he will teach her how to catch a chicken correctly. Unsheathing the sword, Sin commented that its tip was unusual. He also noticed that it is heavier, which Red confirmed. It is a sword that can pierce the muscle fibers and claws of monsters. It is comparable to an axe when wielded against them. The design of this sword was actually born from another man's sword, and that man was the celebrity who came up with the sword style that uses body weight to crush opponents. Red added that only attention seekers or those with extremist ideologies would use his name. Sin seemed to have an idea who Red was talking about. He was none other than Seal, the first hero summoned 2,000 years ago. Sin's mind was a mess, so he tried to empty his head and harden his heart. He reminded himself that this is just a repetition of what he has done countless times before. In this world, his survival does not require the college student without. While he was absorbed in his thoughts, a goblin charged at him. He swung his axe, but could only notice it at the last second. Nurdle stepped in and kicked the goblin, saving him from an almost instant death. The goblin fell to the ground from the impact of the kick, his face filled with fear as he realized the strength of his enemies. But it was already too late for him. Sin had already killed him. Nurdle nonchalantly asked him to show her what he has, to which he firmly said that he will do his best, facing a trio of inhuman creatures, without brandishing his sword. He remembered the match with Red before where he lost. I wasn't sure if I had had enough training, as I hadn't won even once. But Red knew that the emission of mana is more important for anti-monster fencing. But hearing that he is terrible in one-on-one battles, Sin thought that it was just garbage. But to put it another way, he is strong against multiple opponents. Sin activated his mana, covering his feet with sparks. Then he jumped into the air, hovering over the enemies. The orc was surprised to see his incredible agility. Sin fixed his gaze on the enemies as he prepared his sword. Then he quickly cut the werewolf with a single slash of the blade. The two remaining monsters panicked, wondering when he had sneaked up behind. The orc smashed his hammer, but could not hit the agile Sin. He turned around as he noticed Sin behind him, only to be greeted by the sight of the hero turning to cut him off. He gave her a maiming cut, tearing the monster's body apart. Before he died, the monster was still wondering how the attack came from above. Sin fell silent, thinking about the implementation of Shal's Z-axis in fencing. When he got up, the remaining goblin cowered in fear. Sin shot a sharp and cutting glance at the monster as the goblin almost cried out in fear. Before he could even give up, Nurgle had already interrupted him. Sin was surprised as Nurgle praised his movement and mana emission. He further explained that most outsiders have low mana reserves, but he did not question the need to kill even after surrendering. Nurgle just said it's for efficiency and convenience. I could never let live someone who has become an enemy. Sin then asked, "What about Coco and Choi?" To which the old man said that 2 of them died there. Coco needs to kill living beings to accumulate her accumulations. Choi would wear down the monsters so Coco can deal the killing blow, but it seems to be having a huge impact on Coco's mental state. Choi then asked Sin if he went to war because of his natural way of killing. He added that he was only a Korean food chef on Earth and asked Sim. The latter said that he was a simple university student. A memory from his past was activated after hearing Choi's words. When he was little, he loved animals so much that he named his chicks after them. But then, one of those chicks was killed by his grandmother for an occasion. She cried all day for the death of her beloved chicken. Her face darkened, wondering if her parents would recognize her change once she returned. The answer to that, I didn't know. Nurgle then told him to get out of it, saying it was all in self-defense. Sin looked at him coldly, expressing agreement with indifference. The chief was seen standing next to an orc warrior. Sin and Negril realized that being indoors is a disadvantage. They have acknowledged that they both use anti-monster fencing. The boss looked in his direction with a cold and empty smile. Meanwhile, the orc roared as he prepared to throw his axe. He threw it in his direction, almost hitting Sin's head. Black found out that the enemy wants them to get out quickly. With this, he decided that he will take care of things here. Hearing this, Sin was confused. The old man only told him that now he will show him how to fight on level ground. Wielding his sword, Black charged forward without hesitation. In response, the orc threw another throwing axe at him. Black leaned back to evade, then quickly regained his posture and attacked. The orc had a spare axe in his hand, while Black quickly drew his sword while attacking. In one neat move, he was able to sneak in behind the orc. The orc was surprised to see his weapon drop. Negril kicked to the ground and propelled himself forward, then gave cross cuts against the monster's body. But his body was too hard, and his sword broke first. The orc knew that the anti-monster fencing would no longer work and charged forward. But while holding his broken sword, Negril reached out to pull out another weapon. It was a fluid movement of simultaneously drawing the sword and cutting the enemy. Seconds later, the orc was seen kneeling on the ground. Choya exclaimed at this sight, while Sin did not react much. But deep down, he was surprised with the old man's sword and mana mastery. Watching him face the boss, he couldn't help but think that he is on another level. The boss wondered why his backup rangers weren't showing up, to which the old man said those guys must be dead by now. He then revealed that there is someone on his team who specializes in assassinations. Then he asked the boss why he decided to become his enemy. The boss just gritted his teeth in frustration, sweating with fear. He helplessly said that he was just following the rules. Hearing this, Black was confused as he sheathed his sword. The boss revealed that they are fine with some guys who want magic weapons. However, he claimed that the team in black crossed the line. Sin watched in silence as the boss kept talking. He added the absurd combat skills of the team, and the honorary hero who led it. He then asked if Negril was planning to start a war with the state. The old man only smiled in response to hearing her words. He then kicked the boss's foot, sending him to the ground as he grimaced in pain. An expression of dread crept into his eyes as he looked at Negril. The latter stood ominously in front of him, saying that rules are made to be broken. He raised his broken sword afterwards, then planted it deep inside the boss's foot. She screamed in horror and agonizing pain as she sweated profusely. Negro began to relate how the civil regulation on magic weapons had been severely tightened. Then he asked the boss if he had an idea why. Gritting his teeth, the chief said it was because of the risk of a mass massacre. Black smiled, saying that his answer is correct. The inhabitants of this world were afraid that the earthlings who had exploded might reveal themselves. Black couldn't help but find it funny. When he was about to kill him, Sin yelled at him to stop. He said this is not the time to play games and torture the boss. He added that there are other families in the area, and there could be more enemies. Negrin looked at him in silence. After thinking about it, she got up and recognized his words. Then he ordered Choi to take the boss and leave him. He also ordered Sin to assume the role of carrying the weapons. Coco asked if they were really going to leave the boss like that, to which he replied no. He ordered Coco to put a tracker on him to follow him. When asked why bother, he simply said it was a courtesy to his junior. Choi threw the boss at the back of the street. He even spat at him to humiliate him even more. The boss could only stand it while staring at him. Choi turned around, hoping not to see him anymore. The chief's trembling hands were extended towards the wall. He struggled to get up, but the humiliation he suffered tortured him even more. Unbeknownst to him, Coco's construct was already following him. Meanwhile, Sin prepared the bags containing the magic weapons. On the other hand, there was Choi, carrying the fatigued Coco. After walking a bit, they finally arrived at the meeting place. Sin complained about carrying the heavy weapons, but Black dismissed it. It would have been easy if he had just used his storage skill. When they entered the room, Kim greeted him. While cleaning his prosthetic arm, Nikki asked about the negotiations. Negro replied, saying that everything turned out as they had predicted. Meanwhile, Choi asked Kim to carry Coco, but he refused. Sin then suggested they check the guns as they might have broken them. Rex responded, saying they probably didn't do that. At most, they probably only took out some parts, and not the mana engine. He was stuttering while saying that he can smuggle some parts from the factory where he works. Black then told Sin that Rex is a very valuable talent. He added that the same goes for Sin himself, but he didn't take it as a compliment, as he felt like throwing up. Before they move the guns, Negril orders Rex to check them. Coco will then accumulate more batteries for future purposes. The rest of them will help with that or revise the plan. The meeting was later dismissed. The night came quickly. Choi was asking if Negril was really going to do it, but they have no other choice. They can't leave any loose ends. Choi hesitated. The opponent is a fellow outsider like them, but Negril knew that, and is firm in his decision. Meanwhile, the boss was seen drinking whiskey, his wound already treated and bandaged. But no amount of alcohol could relieve the anger he felt. He threw it at the servant, breaking the glass. He's planning on finding Nurgle and his team to screw them over. Meanwhile, an orc commented that his team members were quite strong. Hearing his title as a war hero, the orc wondered how strong Nurgle is, but the boss knew that it is not only he who is a problem. He remembered the rookie Sin. Thinking that he was also dangerous, the orc could not shake the feeling that something big is about to happen. They knew that if they committed terrorism, it would certainly hurt their business. The boss banged his fists on the chair, thinking to annoy them. They never knew what they were doing when they noticed it. It was too late. They were already followed by Negril. To the surprise of the boss, he accidentally broke his glass. There, the old man was already in front of him. He threatened that the boss would never be able to enjoy expensive liquors again. For the rescue of the boss, the orcs immediately charged forward. Their goal is to land their fists on the warlord, but his sharp and penetrating gaze was enough to tame them. It made them instantly realize the unfathomable gap between them. It hasn't been long, and Coco suddenly shuddered. He seemed to have awakened from a dream. She then told Choi that she was killed by proxy through Negrel's invocation. With this, Choi offered him a hot cup of cocoa drink. She thanked him, then asked how long he had known about Negrel. He said it's been a year since they owed him their lives. Coco has known Negro for 3 years, but she didn't know anything about him. There are so many questions you have for him, but they have no answers. He never even uses his skill on top of that. He doesn't trust anyone, and he's so good at killing without even using skills or mana. Meanwhile, Terry commented that he is very thorough. Negro commented that the more people he saves, the more weakness he has. Then he told her to inform Nikki, Bab and Sigmund about the change in the plan. When asked about the others, he said they will be left to die during the raid. In the bright night lights of the city streets, a car stopped on the side of the road. A man got out of the vehicle while his friends were still drinking. They told him to be careful, to which he replied that his house is only 5 minutes away. But the man was so drunk that he couldn't even walk properly. As she continued to nurse the beer bottle, she thought she needed to pee. But if he dumped his waste on the streets, he thought there would be traces. She decided she's going to pee in the river so it doesn't stink, without him knowing. Something was lurking under the waters of the river, but she continued to let it out anyway, relieving herself. Suddenly, he noticed that something was moving in the waters. From below, monstrous eyes seemed to be looking at him. His screams were heard as he was dragged into the rivers. The beer bottle was the only evidence that he was ever in that place. It was morning, and Sin was looking at his plate of noodles. Sar was wondering why he looked so expressionless in the morning. Sin took his noodles, saying that they looked delicious. But Nari wasn't convinced, and thinks he's being picky about eating. Sin clarified that he doesn't really care about food at all. It was just that it had been more than half a year since I had eaten homemade food. Anyway, he thanked them for the food and praised it. Sar asked if he integrated well into the radical faction, to which he confirmed. He revealed that Noor knew him, that they were connected with the Crown Prince. Sar said it was a fact that they would do background checks. With that, if he couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. After all, they noticed his abilities, just like Negril. Radical groups were able to recognize things faster than they could. Sin added that only 2 people reacted when they saw his abilities. One was Negril, and the other was Tanya herself. On the princess's side, she was being worried about a lot of work. It's been chaotic since he declared the hero summoning, but no matter how much you warn them, the enemies just won't back down. While looking through the documents, he noticed something about a mass murder. He then asked the assistant if these trivial matters should be handled by her. Then he pointed to another report on the table, which tells about a strange life form that prowls the sewers. The assistant reported numerous victims already. The princess sighed, and then said that she will assign someone for this problem. The Kachin sighed, was surprised to hear about the crocodile from the sewer. He also asked Negro what is that predestined urban legend. Simply put, it is a version, and it falls out of the American or European sewer legends. The kingdom's sewage system is complex, so workers often get lost. There are also unknown and unmapped areas, as well as many hiding places, and it seems that some monster has taken up residence in it. Then he turned to Sin, and asked if he had ever had experience in the monster house. He found out that was the case after seeing his anti-monster sword techniques. However, if he doesn't see any reason to hunt the sewer crocodile. Coco then explained that they have to accumulate their own resources. After all, the success rate depends on how much you have accumulated. She gains more accumulations, the stronger the creature she kills. Black said he will skip the alligator from the sewer since he is busy. Sin said that he also needed training, so he couldn't go. With this, Black thought that hunting him was not necessary. However, they would have to catch him before the operation starts in 2 weeks. But since it is not a one-man job, many of the members are expected to participate. With this, Sin feels helpless as it seems inevitable. Moments later, he took a step forward, while heaving a sigh of disappointment. He complains about always having to be the team leader. Sin walks with his team, disappointed to be a leader. Eri suddenly introduced herself and the pig, Pow. She smiled, saying that Negril trusts Sim a little bit. Coco continued, saying that she acts softer with Sin. The latter asked curiously if they knew him well. Bob replied with uncertainty since they don't know him completely. He added that Negr likes to keep his personal information hidden. He dismissed the idea and ordered his meal. The vendor handed him his food. He told Sin that as long as everyone does their part, it's fine. He delivered the food to them before starting. Coco didn't like the idea, but Sin accepted the food willingly. Bob handed the food to Eri, but she waved her hand. Bob put all the food in his mouth while they refused. The three of them just stared at him blankly. Sin offered him his food, saying that he can eat it too. Ariel asked Sin about his plan, to which he replied that they should gather information and equipment first. He points out that they need to know where and when the monster appears. Coco added that with that, they can reduce the area. Eri praised him, wanting to make it so. Sin ordered Bob and Coco to gather information, while he and Eri will prepare for the team. Coco complained, while Bob asked if races matter. Eri cries, saying that she had never met an East Asian again. Coco agreed with the defeat, while Eri happily thanked her. Sin asked Eri about the team since he has no money. Eri told him they had funds. He added that they get sponsorships from the Empire. Without the confused look. As they were walking, Sin asked what she meant, but she told him to use his brain cells. Eri revealed that they were labeled as an anti-state faction in the kingdom. If they successfully blocked the hero's summoning, the Empire and the Crown Prince would benefit the most. Sin got even more confused, but Eddie blurted out that the world is the same. He thought of the prince putting him in his patronage. Eddie stopped when they arrived. They were in front of a store run by his acquaintance. He warned Sin that he's a little eccentric. Eddie cheerfully opened the door and called the store owner. They were greeted by the items inside. Sin felt like it was something out of a Hong Kong movie. Her eyes widened at the sight of something, as Eri wondered about the owner's whereabouts. It was a masked man standing in front of them. Sin instantly summoned his sword to attack. He cut forward, but the man dodged him. He raised his hand, saying it was just a joke. Harry scolded him for doing it to someone he had just met. The man thought he was just scaring them, but Sin pulled out a sword. Harry complained about his childish act, but he dismissed it, saying that Sin has an unusual ability. He asked with curiosity about generation and creation of matter, telling Sin that he looked familiar. Eri told him to drop the nonsense and just tend to his shop. Then he asked what they needed, to which caving teams replied. Sin revealed that they would explore wet caves. The man searched for equipment, while adding some tools that they also needed. Sin suddenly asked him about the mask he was wearing. The man replied that he should know if he is from Earth. He turned his gaze, saying that it is a replica of a monster that once existed. He was the first hero, the symbol of Sheol, the four-eyed owl. Sin asked curiously about the symbol of Sheol. Eri seems fed up with her friend, as he is starting over. The four-eyed owl was a monster subdued by Sheol. With a bored expression, Eri added that his return was only created by Earthlings. His friend replied, saying it was real. She covered her head in frustration, saying that it is the same as the conspiracy theory on Earth. Sin replied that it sounds like a legend. Harry's friend told him that it is a fact and not a conspiracy. Harry looks at him like he's a weirdo, prompting him to call her. Sin asked the man curiously about Shao. The man was surprised to see that he was interested, so he grabbed his collection to show it to Sin. Harry was angry, which caused Sin to apologize. The man extended his collection, happily showing her the rare things he collected for decades. Harry smacked his forehead, saying he was leaving. Sin got down on one knee, pointing at something. The man grabbed the disc, saying it was a replicated version of an original one. Sin asked what was inside the disc, prompting the man to reply that it was apocryphal from thousands of years ago. It was a structure behind the creation of summoning magic and the fate of the first hero. He asked if it was all written down. Eri complained, telling the man to say it correctly. He continued that everything was assumed, which caused him to unquestioningly. The man pretended to cough, saying that it was just the restored version. His eyes opened, saying that it is safe, because Earthlings and natives use the same language, which confuses the two. He opened the disc, saying that there is no communication problem. 2,000 years ago, magic was used to unify everyone's language into one. Sin got up and asked about magic. The man asked what he thought about summoning magic. Sin admitted that he thought it was just a ritual. The man smiled, saying he will explain it more. The dimensional gate that the outsiders fell through are just mistakes of summoning magic. He revealed that outsiders get the neglected version of mana and abilities. He continued, but Sin interrupted him, asking why no one can actually use magic. Eri revealed that he was restrained. His face tightened at the mention of the Demon King. He pointed to his friend, telling him that was the real story. The Demon King cursed the newborns so that they could only use one magic. Those who could use full magic imitated the Demon Gate to call someone who could kill the Demon King. But Sheol only sealed the king, and the curse was never lifted. In the end, the magical progress stalled and regressed. Outside, Eddie stretched as he told Sin that the equipment will be sent. He noticed that Sin was still worried about the man's conspiracy. She confronted him, telling him that it's just an irrelevant story. He added that they should concentrate on their task. Then he noticed the silhouette behind. It was Bob and Coco. Sin told them that they bought the equipment and asked for their opinion. The two revealed that it was complicated, which prompted them to ask. Meanwhile, a man was crying. Sin was confused as Coco informed them that the man's co-worker had died. The man offered to help them, which caused them to react hesitantly.